Alrighty. There we go. Alright, let's give it a second. Get everybody in. And let's see. Yeah, this is going to be our first video for the day. I'd like to make a follow-up to my previous video where we were reacting to Rev's video on Hassan and specifically relating to his response to the ICE shooter. I had some comments that were saying this guy was libertarian. I asked AI, I was like, hey, is there any evidence that that's the case? And there is some reporting that suggests that. I've looked into it a little bit more. I don't really see it. The first response that I had was looking back through the Rev's video. Apparently this guy had, like a communist, pro-communist profile picture, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem very libertarian to me. And the article in here basically someone interviewed a couple of his former friends. Now, former friends, what does that mean? Does that mean that they are former friends because he's dead now? They were, friends right up until the end, or former friends as in, yeah, 5 years ago, we were in classes together and we were talking and all that kind of stuff, and then we lost touch. It seems to be the latter. It seems to be that this person basically, stopped talking to him when he took his 4chan irony stuff into daily interactions. He was becoming unbearable. Once he dropped out of college, he had no obligation to be social. None of us reached out due to his edgelord behavior. So, former friends, sounds like this guy, lost touch to some extent. Basically, they're actually, therefore, really not sure what his politics were. All of his friends are essentially putting forth their own interpretations of what he was politically. It does also sound like he wasn't specifically political when they were friends with him. That was not his main thing. And therefore, the people who are saying that this guy is a leftist, that's why they're saying it's not totally accurate. This is why they're saying, hey, look, these former friends are saying, yeah, this guy was not overtly left-leaning, progressive, political, that type of stuff. However, that was probably a couple years ago. And certainly, again, profile picture is not damning evidence. It's not, a clear-cut case of, okay, you have a pro-communist profile picture and therefore you're progressive left. Very fair. Absolutely. Fair to say. However, the anti-ICE thing, they mentioned here, they also suggested that he liked edgy humor in video games, and none of them believed that the anti-ICE message that was scrawled on one of his bullets could possibly be sincere. Now, that's not evidence that it wasn't sincere. That's not evidence that he didn't mean what he said. That doesn't mean that there's any evidence that this was not a leftist. It's just that his friends don't think that's true. And again, these are former friends. They've lost touch with him. They don't know where his head's at. They have no clue. That is the extent of the reporting against him being a leftist. That's basically, as far as I can tell. Again, please let me know. Give me some sources. Give me some more articles. I'm happy to go into this much further if people are interested in it. I'm very happy to consider all possibilities here. So far, from what I can tell, looks like a duck, walks like a duck. It does seem unlikely to me that this guy was libertarian. The edgelordy stuff, okay, vaguely libertarian bent who despised both major parties and politicians generally. Okay, I don't know if that's inherently libertarian to dislike both major parties. That seems to be, if anything, almost like baseline American. Both major political parties not really doing anything for us doesn't mean that you're not on either side. And again, this would have been years ago. So, as far as I can tell, maybe this person was just unhinged, got radicalized, not even radicalized, just basically like, lost total touch with reality and decided to shoot up an ice facility for the lulz. If so, then yeah, the guy is crazy. The guy's crazy. I will say the anti-ice rhetoric is pretty heavily biased to one side, the left. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's very much coming from the left as opposed to the right, and even the libertarian right, or just libertarian in general. At this point, not really super like pro anti, or I should say anti-ice. Like that was a thing in a segment of the libertarian population like 5 years ago, pre-Biden. You could kind of make that argument that the libertarian movement was pro-immigration, or at the very least like apathetic to it. Like, okay, yeah, like whatever, the free market will figure it out. Now, like the Dave Smith libertarian bent is much stronger, and they are anti-immigration in so much as it affects American and American workers and these types of things, and it's an outside force that is actually kind of destabilizing society, and therefore it's not something that we can say is wholly solvable purely by the free market, because we have other factors involved in it. That's kind of where I would be with libertarian angle on this. As far as being anti-ice, I don't see the connection. And in terms of trying to actually say that this guy was libertarian, I mean, maybe he was. It's possible. This being the evidence, 3 friends who haven't talked to him in however many years, one of whom says is a vaguely libertarian bent because he disliked politics. That is so paper thin, it's basically laughable. I don't think this is at all good evidence to support it. If at best all it does is say, okay, this was a purely politically motivated shooting, maybe. I can see that as an argument where it's just like, okay, this guy was actually just crazy and decided to do it because he thought it would be funny. That's super crazy. That's really super far down the line. And I don't know if it really lines up with me. And I'm not sure it lines up with where we kind of are as a country right now, what the sort of current narrative is, how political violence is being seen across the spectrum. I don't agree with it. Again, please let me know. Give me some sources, give me some stuff to refute what I'm saying. I'm happy to go into it more, so let me know what you think. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll say farewell for now. All right. So that was video 1. All right, and again, I mean, I think, I'll be totally honest, the other side of this is that Distractify, where this article is from, generally biased center to center left, lean left, not super factual, mixed factuality rating. Yeah, I mean, just reading this article, Ken Klippenstein, who feels like not a real person. I mean, like that, if I'm going to be totally honest, Ken Klippenstein, I'm guessing this is a real person, is an independent journalist. I'm not really seeing it here. All right, Kash Patel, investigation is ongoing. An initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. Yeah. Again, the anti-ice stuff, that to me does seem like it. It's the same thing with like the Charlie Kirk shooter. oh man, he's got some like meme messages. Therefore, it has nothing to do with, it's not politics at all in any way, shape, or form. He's just an internet culture guy. It's like, I mean, yeah, okay, you can kind of make that like assertion, but it really is difficult to have that line up with the evidence, with, what your eyes see and your ears hear. The simplest explanation is usually true. Who says anti-ice stuff? Who doesn't like ice? Who has been raging against it? If we're looking at a political binary of right left, where's it coming from? It's coming from the left, 100%. Therefore, it would be very reasonable to assume that if this is an anti-ice shooter, they would be coming from the left wing. It's not a guarantee. Absolutely, I agree with that. We can look into more stuff. There's going to be an investigation. There is an investigation. It's ongoing. We're going to find more evidence. We're going to find more stuff. But to basically just interview a couple, like 3 friends slash acquaintances of his that lost touch years ago, and to say, oh, yeah, one of them says he's got, I was like, what's his politics? I don't know. He's like vaguely libertarian. Yeah, okay. So he's not a leftist. There we go. There's that really raises a lot of questions. It's like, I don't think, no, not really. It's kind of, yeah, that's going at least as far as saying, hey, look at this anti-ice messaging, therefore he's a leftist. If you're saying that's jumping to a conclusion, having one of his old friends say, vaguely libertarian, okay, he's libertarian, he's not a leftist. That's at least as much of a jump to the conclusion. At least as much. So, all right, that's that. Second thing we're going to be talking about today is TwitchCon. TwitchCon seems to be not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's going to happen. But who's going? Who's going to these things? Do you know anyone who's going to be going to TwitchCon? Apparently Hassan won't. Also, Pokemon and Lily Pichu? Probably not. Valkyrie and Cutie Cinderella? Definitely not. And Asmongold says, you know what? If you're a woman in general, definitely don't go to TwitchCon. Now, Hassan specifically is not going because he is worried about other people. I don't know if I believe that. I'll take him at his word, but I don't really think that's likely. Specifically because he just doesn't seem to be as concerned with other people as he is with himself. Like when he has the Ethan Klein come onto his show and his entire community is like going bananas, crazy against Ethan, he's like, whatever, you can't hold me accountable for that. Doesn't seem like he cares that much about these other people, but he's saying it's for other people. Now, I will say that's kind of a very reasonable reason not to do it. And I think he knows that. I think he knows that he can kind of come off, instead of as like a coward for not putting himself in the line of fire. And again, I don't think anybody, and I sure hope no one tries to, do anything bad to Hassan. Let him dig his own career grave. Not his actual grave. I don't want to do that. Literally just his, social career grave. Let him do it himself. Let his words damn him. That's enough. I'm happy to have him be around all the time so that we can look at him and go, yeah, look, this is what a leftist looks like. Do you want to be like this person? No, hell no. Absolutely not. Look at what he's saying. It's crazy. It's unhinged. It's out of control. It's bananas. Yeah. You're a Hassan viewer? Okay, perfect. We know not to put you around children or civilized society, you get to be in your own little playpen away from the rest of us. That sounds good to me. Now, he is, I don't think he's stupid. I think he's aware that if he says, I'm doing this to protect other people, it gives him an air of magnanimity. It gives him an air of being, like a martyr. Like, oh, I would love to go out there and just, be brave. But, it's putting all these other people in danger. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Now, obviously, okay, if it's like my co-host, Ethan Klein, if some of my fans are saying crazy stuff about him, it's not my fault. I don't care. So I will say the general idea that he's doing this to help other people, to protect them, does not really line up with his behavior in the past. Maybe he really cares about these people specifically, and therefore he won't do it. My guess, and I think, again, this is just reasonably reasonable takes, he's doing this because he doesn't want to get involved in anything bad. He doesn't want to put himself in the line of fire. Completely understandable. Completely understandable. And again, I hope he does. I hope nothing happens to him. I hope he puts himself out there. Nothing ever happens to him. That would be ideal. Retain the moral authority and do not stoop to the level of the left. Absolutely. I'm a fan of that. But I will also say, TwitchCon, what is happening with Twitch? What is going on? There's safety concerns. Apparently, Asmongold last year was saying that NMP Lowell, I never know how to pronounce it, Nick, was assaulted by a crazy person. Last year, NMP Lowell and Wake were sexually assaulted by a streamer, and Twitch didn't press charges or pursue any form of legal action against him. Now, I will say, I think NMP would have needed to make some sort of police report or something like that. He didn't. But yeah, certainly this DBR666 person, did they get banned? Did they do anything here? Doesn't seem like they did anything against him. And Asmongold's like, all right, yeah, if that's the case, if this is what happens to NMP, who's like, a big creator, there's a lot of eyes on this person. Do you feel safe going to this con where there's going to be a lot of like parasocial weirdos who watch your stuff that are going to be at the con? No, I wouldn't do it. If I was a woman, I would never go to TwitchCon, Asmongold says. Very reason. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Pokemon and Lily Pichu worried about it. Now, are they worried about this for the same reason? My contention for the Valkyrie and Cutie Cinderella stuff, there's a little bit of an aftershock from their stuff in March, where Valkyrie with Emiru and Cinna are, I'm going to say assaulted. Technically, maybe not legally, but assaulted by, some crazy person in an IRL stream. I can see that. However, that was 6 months ago. My guess is the current safety concern would be because of Charlie Kirk. That would be my guess. That's what's bringing it to their mind. I think 6 months would be enough time to generally process the ramifications of like an assault like that, or like a bad situation like that. Okay, what can we do with this? Do we need to hire more security? What are our priorities? What are our procedures for dealing with these types of things? You've got the money to hire people to deal with those things. You could absolutely secure that stuff, to a really decent degree. You could have also been going crazy after Twitch. A lot of these people have like direct communication with the CEO of Twitch. So if they're not feeling safe, I've got to imagine it's not because of stuff that happened 6 months ago. It's going to be as a result of the current sort of like political climate. And I think most of these people are on the left, maybe not the political left, but certainly the cultural left, and therefore they're fearing some sort of like crazy bag of right wing reprisal. And, that lines up with the narrative of, God, there's so much right wing violence, there's so much political violence from the right. They're doing, 5 times as much. 76% of all these political violence comes from the right. And therefore, we got one Charlie Kirk. For every one Charlie Kirk, there's going to be 100 Hassans. No, I mean, I'm not seeing that. That doesn't seem to be the case. The statistics don't seem to line up with that. But if you're associating with a Hassan, I'm imagining that is probably the narrative that you're getting. And if you get enough of a narrative in, you're going to start to believe it, even if it doesn't really line up with reality, with your lived experience. You can very easily get kind of, brainwashed to believe that stuff. I will also say most of these people are popular because they are engendering a parasocial bond with their viewers. All right, like Valkyrie, Cutie Cinderella, Pokimane, Lily Pichu. Why are people watching them? They're watching them because they're lonely. They're watching them because they want some kind of, romantic relationship with them. I don't find the idea that people are watching them because they're so super entertaining to hold a ton of water. I've never been able to sit through any stream where I tried to watch any of these people. The most I can handle is like what? Like a 5-minute clip from some of these people. That's it. I honestly, I can't do it. So for me, the idea that you are so incredibly entertaining that people are willing to fork over hundreds, thousands of dollars to, watch them cook chicken or whatever. It doesn't hold water. It absolutely does not hold water for me. So, look, I'm glad that you're taking your safety into account here. I'm glad that you're thinking about that stuff because I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But, is Twitch going to protect you? Probably not. Because to be perfectly honest, Twitch is the person that put you in a position to basically, how can we describe this charitably? Exploit lonely, crazy people. And unfortunately, this is the flip side of it. You have a ton of money by exploiting these, random lonely people. And the other side of that is, some of those random lonely, crazy people are going to be crazy enough to think, yeah, we're actually like boyfriend and girlfriend. I gave her $200. I need to get her phone number. Yeah, again, like, this is why you need security. This is why you need this kind of stuff. If you're pushing that kind of relationship with your audience, maybe they're not doing it on purpose, but I think they know why they're getting the money that they are. This is the other side of it. This is the trade-off. You got a ton of money, you got very popular, you're very famous, you're very successful career-wise. How did that happen? Well, it happened very quickly because you're, a girl, people are lonely. They're looking at you as a stand-in for something that's not in their own life. And therefore, the trade-off for that is your safety can and most likely will be compromised at some point in time, which is why you need to spend some of that money that you got to upgrade your security. I get it. I understand it. Not great. Not a great way to be. Not a great way to live. But, if they don't want to go to TwitchCon, is this going to like impact their careers? Not going? No. All of these people are totally successful. All of these people are just, they'll weather the storm very easily. But Hassan is falling on the grenade, and he's going, no, I won't go because it could put other people in danger. Like, what? No, I don't think so. You're not going because, you, I would say, kind of unreasonably think there's going to be reprisals against you from crazy right-wing people. I'm not seeing any calls to get Hassan like there were, hey, get Asmongold. Hey, get Charlie Kirk's wife and kids. I'm not seeing those. Maybe they're out there, but I'm not seeing them. And therefore, because I'm not, if I'm not seeing them, they're not as popular. They're not as shared around as all of the stuff from the left saying, hey, get these other right wing people. Let me know what you think. Let me know how I'm wrong. Give me some sources. Show me some evidence. Happy to go into it. Happy to be proven wrong. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll say farewell for now. Okay, so that's all of these guys. Got a couple other things. Let me see. Okay. I actually thought that the one comment that I got about, hey, this guy was a libertarian that we were talking about earlier, I actually thought it was in reference to the Michigan church shooter, because that was the narrative that I was seeing a lot of, was like, oh, this guy's actually like a right-wing person. So the initial comment that I made about it was like, no, I was like, I haven't seen anything that says he's libertarian. Maybe he was. But it basically sounds like the Michigan church shooter. As far as we can tell right now, this is like, 16 hours old. There's a little bit more information, but it's basically just like the same guy giving a more detailed report on like other news networks. Essentially, the guy just didn't like Mormons and was probably a little bit unhinged. A little bit. No, super unhinged. That seems to be the case. I wanted to go into this full Metatron video about it. I do have a couple. Let me think. So this is the other one. This is the Joshua Jan guy who shot up the ICE facility. Well, yeah, we'll say facility. Technically, he shot up like a van that was around a ICE facility. But then, yeah, we've got this stuff about the Michigan church stuff. But yeah, so let's watch this.
Hey, noble ones, welcome back. Here I am. Very late at night. It's 1:45 a.m. and I'm gonna go to bed very soon. But before, I wanted to kind of give you an update when it comes to my report of the horrible incident that happened in Michigan during the shooting at the LDS church. In the previous video, we were speculating as to possible motives, when it seems like we have a much better understanding of that now. So I wanted to cover it. So this is the shooter, or the gunman, Thomas Jacob Sanford. We have already shown his face yesterday, but I found quite a few interesting images from his Facebook that we can use to try and figure out what his motives were. And yes, I doubled down on my post on X. He was absolutely a piece of shit. As you know, he was neutralized. More on that later, because I've got something to say about that too. So on my video yesterday, based on the information that I had, I speculated 3 possible motives that could make sense from a logical perspective. Motive number 1 that I presented was, well, maybe this was an anti-religion, specifically an anti-Mormon sentiment, maybe some kind of hatred that he had towards the LDS church. I mean, that's the most basic one you would think, considering the fact that he shot, a Mormon church. The second thing that I said was, if this is a politically motivated crime, then it would be more likely for this guy to be a leftist rather than a right-winger, simply because LDS members, generally speaking, tend to be...
Yeah, I mean, that's a very reasonable take. More likely, it's not impossible, but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, if you're shooting up a church, I mean, like, unless they're trying to think what would be the possible church targets where you would go, okay, you might think there'd be even money on it being, someone from the right or the left, or more likely that the shooter would be on the right. there's a possibility that you could be looking at certain churches, like, I don't know, like a Baptist black church in the South. And there, I mean, and there are, I suppose, some like super progressive churches that might attract, a crazy person on the right to attack them. But I will say, yeah, it seems generally more likely that if a church is being shot up, and certainly I think we've seen this with the last number of church shootings, they, you know, do tend to be people who are left leaning, left aligned leftists. That does seem to be the case. If they are politically motivated, it does seem that, yeah, if a church is your target, you're probably a leftist. Yeah, that's probably true. Um, you know, Makes sense to me. This seems logically consistent.
conservative, and their views are very traditionalist. So, from the perspective of left wing positions, they would be bigots. However, I noticed that some people were offended at accusing me, oh, you are stating without proof that he was a leftist. And I'm like, did you even attend first grade elementary school grammar classes? If at the beginning of a clause makes it into an hypothetical sentence. So I only said if this is politically motivated, it would make more sense. But I also said if the guy ends up being MAGA, then I'll report it. Then it would be MAGA. My third position was, or maybe it was just a maniac. That was
Yeah. Also, always, I mean, again, like, it almost seems like so obvious you don't need to mention it. Like, I mean, obviously you have to because, like, people will go crazy if you don't. But it's like, yeah, like, sometimes there's no logical reason for why things happen. That happens all the time in humanity because human beings are not 100% purely rational. And, you've got people that are, not only irrational, but you've also got times where it's just like, stuff goes wrong. Boop, you got like a brain tumor and you decide, all right, I'm just gonna start shooting people up. That happens. That absolutely happens. I think that was what was it? I want to say Texas A&M. I could be wrong. Like the clock tower shooter, the one guy, like famously like one of like the first like mass shooters, climbs the clock tower, starts shooting. He literally had like a brain tumor that changed his personality and made him go crazy. So even if he had written out a manifesto of like, here's the political reasons why I did this, here's my whole rationale and these types of things, he has a brain tumor that is warping his sense of reality. Anything that he says is subject to this biological motivator that is changing and warping all of his reason and rationale. None of the words that he's saying can be trusted because he's in an altered state. You can't trust it. So that is always a possibility, but it's one that really is insanely difficult to verify after the fact, unless, yeah, again, I mean, unless you do like an autopsy, unless you have some sort of an autopsy. And generally speaking, I don't think most mass shooters get like a really super duper in depth brain neurological autopsy. Sometimes it's not possible because I think was it this guy, the Michigan church shooter? I don't know if he killed himself. I know who was it? The ice shooter did. Okay, so like again, let's say generally speaking, if you're going to do that, your head doesn't really survive that, and therefore the autopsy of that is going to be, a moot point. You can't really. You can look through some stuff, but there's going to be such damage that you really are not going to be able to make a determination one way or the other on that. And that would change, the equation entirely. If you can never determine one way or the other whether or not that's the case, then that is always an option, but it's one that you're never going to mention because it's like, yeah, that's true of just anybody for any reason, anybody can do anything for any reason, could be that there is some, biological motivator. Could be like, oh, okay, you know what? This person was chronically low on vitamin C, and therefore, there was a car accident. Okay, is it because that person was not paying attention? Is it because of this kind of stuff? You have no idea. You have no clue. And people generally go for the easiest explanation, the one that makes the most sense with the available evidence. You can't rule out all these other possibilities 100%. The best thing that you can do is just go, all right, we're relatively confident this is the case. Looking at the evidence that we've got is the best thing we can do is say, yeah, we're pretty confident. However, there are absolutely things that could happen that could come up if we had perfect information and perfect access to all of that information that would change our mind on this. That would be, again, basic, normal stuff that everybody would kind of consider as obvious, to the point where it's it almost bears not mentioning because it should be such a default assumption that, yeah, anytime you're making any sort of news reporting proclamation on a human event, you're operating without perfect knowledge. There's some degree of ignorance.
Was the least likely. Now, it seems like I was right. So, what you see here is an interview with this man, Chris Johnson, who claims he talked to the church shooter. And some of the information he reveals appears to point, we're going to watch it together, but some of the information that he reveals appears to point.
Now let's pause for just a second. Okay, let's say that this person is going to tell us, an exact thing of events. I've already seen some of this, which is basically saying, all right, let's say that he says this guy was purely motivated via a hatred of the Mormon religion. This is one eyewitness. But what if this guy's lying? What if this person's lying? There's nothing to corroborate what he's saying. Let's say there's no other evidence found. Let's say that he basically just doesn't have any kind of social media whatsoever and, doesn't post any of his thoughts. He doesn't have anything out there that corroborates the idea that he disliked Mormons. All we're doing is taking this person at his word. He could be lying. But again, we're basically just going, okay, well, we're operating with the evidence that we had. Yeah, we can doubt that this person said that, but this is a piece of evidence that we're going to have to consider, because you also then have to consider, all right, well, how likely is it that this guy is just lying? You would then look into this guy's motivations, into his past. Does he have a history of trying to insert himself into large happenings? Is this a fame whore? Is this someone who's going to lie? Does he have a history of defamation? Is this a reliable witness? Does he have a good memory? Is his memory of, faces any good? Is he sure that this person that he talked to that said he hated Mormons, the same guy? All of these things should be default assumptions, grain of salt. We're not taking him at his word 100%. We're just going, look, this is a new piece of evidence. It lines up with a possibility of why this would have happened. And therefore, we'll put it into that column. And if at the end of the day, once all of the evidence has been collated, of which we will never have 100% of the evidence, we will never have 100% the full picture, which seems the most likely?
To the fact that this was indeed a crime of pure hatred against LDS members, and specifically the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, in this case, this would not be a politically motivated shooting, like, for instance, Charlie Kirk's shooting, but it would rather be a specific case of a private matter, if you will, between this guy, the shooter, the piece of shit.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say the reason why I'm hearing so much about this, and I think the reason why um, this one is being covered so much more so than the ice one, partially it's because it's newer. It happened later, and therefore, it's going to lead the news cycle. It also does line up more so with the idea being pushed by mainstream left leaning media, which is that actually there's a lot of political violence on the right. This person has pictures of him in camo gear. He's got a beard. He, I think, is wearing some like Trump paraphernalia in some picture. So it's very easy to go, okay, yeah, this guy's MAGA, this guy's MAGA, and he's doing this with political stuff. Now, I mean, the political stuff it doesn't really make sense from the perspective of if you shoot up a church, again, a Mormon church, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. It doesn't. So I mean, the idea that you would shoot up a church and you're on the right wing, it's not impossible. Like I said, there are a couple targets maybe that you could look at and you'd go, okay, I could kind of see how this might appeal to someone who's on the right as a target. I can see it. Um, the LDS, this type of thing, doesn't really scream that to me.
Shit that I explained earlier on, and the church. So we're gonna watch this in a minute, sort of on the second half of this video, but first I want to point out a few important matters when we deal with these kind of situations, shootings, particularly in the early stages of reporting. What's important to say is that, of course, everybody's now trying to claim him, right? In other words, anytime there is a shooter, everyone is going to try and claim that he belongs to the opposite side of the political spectrum, even before we know if the shooting has any connection to a political activity. I've seen people making absolute statements, people saying he is a liberal, a crazy liberal, and that's why he shot members of this church. And then I've seen people saying, no, he's MAGA. Why? Because he had two flags, a pickup truck, and he was a veteran. Now, I would like to speak a little bit about the concept of veterans for a second, if you don't mind. First and foremost, simply because you're a veteran, it doesn't mean that you're a conservative. Case in point. Regardless, another thing that I want to point out is this. I've seen people postulating that this could have been a case of PTSD, right? Because a lot of veterans do struggle with that, particularly after deployments, and it seems like that this guy was indeed deployed in Iraq. And then I've seen people say, well, if you struggle mentally, I wish he offed himself rather than going on a killing spree. Now, let me make...
Sure. I will say some of the reporting that I've seen, I think at this point indicated that he did have PTSD. I think there was some reporting that said he was being treated for it, like by the VA or something like that. Not 100% sure on that. Let me see if this article has anything about that. I don't. Yeah, motivated, not clear. Many shootings. I'm not seeing it. I don't think I'm seeing anything specifically about this guy saying that he had been treated in the past for PTSD. I do remember I heard something like that from my local news. I want to see if I can't find any evidence to support that or deny it. I can't find any on this article specifically.
Make this 100% clear. This guy was an absolute piece of shit. However, it is absolutely wrong and unbecoming to propose the idea of someone unaliving themselves or offing themselves because they're struggling mentally, particularly when it comes to veterans. This is horrible thing to say, because a lot of veterans are at risk of S word that I can't use because otherwise YouTube demonetizes me, unaliving themselves. You shouldn't say that. Once again, I'm not trying to say that PTSD is somehow of an excuse. Absolutely not. Of course, this guy is garbage. And I think every veteran watching this, thank you for your service, by the way, will agree with me. This is inexcusable. This guy had a relationship with a Mormon. He got burnt by it and decided to take it on to the entire church. He was a maniac. But you should never suggest, oh, if you're struggling mentally with PTSD because of deployment, because of service, then just off yourself. No, the right thing to say, that's very disrespectful to our veterans, who fought for your freedom, by the way, and mine. No, what you should say is, you should seek help. You should seek professional help, and hopefully that can avoid things escalating this way. But once again, this wasn't a situation, I wanted to make that one very clear, but once again, this wasn't a situation of pure mental health. This was specifically a situation of anti-Mormon hatred because of personal experiences that this guy had.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know of a lot of PTSD related mass shootings. Not like, it's not to say that it's completely impossible or that none of them have happened, but I can't think of, like, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Now, in terms of PTSD shootings, there's a ton of them. They're all suicides. Every once in a while, like, I mean, the one, what was it, Chris Kyle? Yeah, you know, that guy got killed by someone who is PTSD, far as we know, far as we can tell. Evidence seems to suggest that, you know, the guy was struggling and, you know, killed him, Chris Kyle, one other guy, I think, at the gun range, and then killed himself. So generally speaking, if you have PTSD, that is what ends up happening, is you end up taking your own life, as opposed to, you know, going on a spree, you know, against a bunch of other people. That, generally speaking, I don't think happens. It's not to say it's impossible. It's just, you know, statistically less likely. So generally speaking, when you see sort of like a mass event like this, to purely say, okay, this person's a veteran, therefore they have PTSD, not a for sure thing, by the way. But, you know, and the PTSD is therefore what did it. And it's like, yeah, that connection is very tenuous, seems unlikely to me.
And that is important to underline. Now, do you remember when I said not every case is political? The assassination of Charlie Kirk was a case of political violence because the shooter targeted him specifically because of his politics, in this case, conservative politics, hated him because of his beliefs. And we know that that's a fact, not only because the family has told us that the guy had become radicalized onto the left-wing, extreme left-wing sphere, but also because, I mean, he wrote on the freaking ammo, "Catch this fascist." And to anyone who tries to say, oh no, that's just because of video games, you're a liar. It's not video games. It is a case of political violence, 100%. I know people...
Yeah. And I mean, this is, like I said, in my earlier video where we're talking about the ice, the anti-ice shooter. Yeah. You write on your bullet, anti-ice. Is it impossible that the reason he wrote it was just to troll? Yes. Okay. I will grant you the remote, statistically negligible, but yeah, non-zero possible possibility that it was just there to troll. But can you admit that is silly? It is so unlikely as to be just completely ridiculous that you would suggest such a thing? Because if you can, then I can. If not, though, I'm kind of gonna be like, no, you're lying. You're lying. If you're not going to acknowledge the fact that someone who writes something that lines up very clearly with one side of the political spectrum, then I'm not going to acknowledge the possibility that, yeah, could just be a troll. It's like, no, it's just, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to play that game.
People tried to twist it and say, no, the shooter was a conservative, was a Trump supporter. He loved freaking Matt Walsh. He loved Matt Walsh. And that's why you shoot one of the guys who brought so many youths to vote for Trump. Come on, make it make sense. No, we know it. Can't twist it anymore. This is a case of political violence. We know it is a confirmed case of political violence. Now, whatever political affiliation this guy has, and we'll review some of the information that we have through to his Facebook page before they scrubbed it. We got some screenshots. Whatever political affiliation this guy may have, whether he's a fervent Democratic voter or whether he's like a full-on MAGA, and we see a picture with a red hat, make America great again, it doesn't matter in this case. Why? Because this wasn't a case of political violence. So whatever party affiliation you may have doesn't matter. Every shooter will most likely have a voting past. But if the shooting they do are because they snap, whatever the other reason there may be, or in this case because he hated Mormons, that's not a political statement. We didn't find a manifesto. If we find a manifesto and he says, I hate all Mormons because they are right-wing bigots, that's different. Now it's a politically motivated action. At the same time, how could you even make it make sense from a right-wing perspective? I'm going to try and be imaginative here. Imagine, however, that he wrote a manifesto for a moment, and on this manifesto he says how much he hates the left. He says, oh, all Mormons are not right-wing enough. Whatever. I don't know. Imagine, for instance, the fact that Mormons bring in missionaries from all over and imagine that for a moment this guy's like, no, we only have to have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an alt-right guy. We only have to have white missionaries, so I'm going to take him out. At that point, you could say, yeah, this is a politically motivated example. But in this case, if he just hates Mormons, whoever he voted doesn't matter. However, let's look into it just to have a complete picture.
Reasonable.
Now, one picture that has been floating around Twitter is this one. And some people have used it to say, see, he's a Trump supporter because it says Trump here. Now, I'll be honest with you, it looks photoshopped. It doesn't look...
That is what a lot of people have been saying. I think there's been a new, original picture that came out. And I think that looks better. Because, obviously, this is blown up. This is artifacted. This is, badly enhanced, like JPEG, blah, 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 blah. And therefore, that's going to give you some of these, artifacting, joints, these types of things. It's going to make it look bad. And, nowadays with AI, totally possible that would be the case. But I think the current version of this is that this is probably a real picture. This one specifically is a bad copy. But there is an original that I think does still, it lines up with this. That is real. Far as I can tell.
Look real. However, I found another picture, and this one instead was taken directly from his Facebook, and it's a lot clearer. Does it still look photoshopped? Maybe. You'll have to look into this because I'm not very good at figuring out. But for a moment, let's imagine that this is real. Okay, let's imagine that this is not photoshopped. If it's photoshopped, ditch it. But if it's not photoshopped, is this a pro-Trump shirt? The answer is no. Because if you look at it, it says, make America cry again.
Okay, so he says America. I thought this said liberals. I thought this specific thing right here was going to say liberals. It could be make America cry again. I'm not sure. I think maybe he found this shirt.
Make America great again. Make America cry again. What does that mean? It's kind of a satirical...
Ooh, okay. So he found this. Okay, so I didn't know this was a thing. If someone could find that exact shirt, obviously we'd be able to tell.
Type of t-shirts that, the way I understand it, they are similar to, in fact, this shop that sells them also sells No Kings in America. Trump is a PEDO. I don't know if I can use that. WTF
Probably
America.
not.
Make America party again. No Kings in America. Democracies have no kings. So as you can see, if that shirt is real, it's an anti-Trump shirt. Just to make it clear.
Maybe. I'll say there's a possibility. Again, the shirt is so artifacted out I can't really say for sure. To me, again, like looking at it, squinting, trying to figure out what it says. Obviously it's all super scrunched up. I can't say. I could see this also like this 5 thing being like an S. Maybe this is an L. Make liberals cry again. Maybe, maybe, maybe. Again, this is 2020. Other people have said, hey, look, maybe maybe this was a pro-Trump shirt that he was wearing in 2020, and then maybe changed up in 4 or 5 years. That's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I haven't found this specific shirt if it is real, so it is possible that it's this
As you could see, if that
thing.
shirt is
Yeah, it could be "Make America Cry Again," could be that, and if it is, then it would be anti-Trump. It's a possibility.
real, it's an anti-Trump shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make it clear. Not that it matters, because I've seen people saying, oh, we found screenshots that he made large donations of sums of money to the Democratic Party. Apart from the fact that those, we don't know if they're real, because just because you see something on Twitter, it doesn't mean it's real. But even if it was true, I don't believe in this moment that it would matter, because from what I could see, we'll watch the interview together, but I had a direct access to a person who spoke to him, and it looks like he wasn't interested in politics at all, and he was instead interested in how much he hated the Mormons. So even if he did vote for the Democratic Party at this point, it wouldn't be, unless we find something that says Mormons are bigots. That's different, or Mormons are fascists. Okay, then it's a political assassination. You see where I'm going with this? It really depends.
We just don't have the information.
This now is because people saw this shirt, this picture that I just showed you, and said, Trump supporter. But then zoom in, for crying out loud. Zoom in. Now, another image that has been circulating, and this one is real, is that these signs were found on the premises of his house. A real piece of information. And I'd love to see how people are having dogfights over this. On one hand, we have Trump
it is
Vance.
ridiculous.
So, of course, lefties are saying, see, MAGA. But then there is a massive stop sign underneath. So, of course...
And it doesn't look like, I was thinking, all right, well, what if this is just like a stop sign that's like on the corner, and he puts the Trump Vance sign on top of the stop sign. That just so happens to be like, on his corner. To me, it does look like this, he has the stop sign on this fence. I saw another picture of this. Doesn't look like there's a post on it, so it doesn't look like this is an actual, stop sign. It looks like this is, like a vanity sign. And then, we pop the Trump Vance sign on top of it.
Most conservatives are now saying, no, it's stop Trump, so the guy is anti-Trump. This is crazy because, you can kind of interpret it both ways. This combination could very much well be stop Trump and Vance, in which case he's clearly an anti-Trump guy. On the other hand, maybe this could be interpreted, I'm trying to be realistic here, this could be interpreted as, well, the sign is stop, don't come any closer, and on top of it, it tells you, I'm pro-Trump. Now, both interpretation could make sense, but once again, if this shirt is real, then I would lean more.
I mean, I was thinking like if it's a stop sign that's like on his property, that it happens. I think there's probably a stop sign. Yeah, there's a stop sign like across the street. That's, I suppose not technically on their property; it's on like public property, but yeah, there's a stop sign over there. And you can put a sign up there. Obviously, if you're not obstructing the sign, it's not illegal. And, you could like slip a piece of paper in between the post and the sign, usually. Yeah. And that would, I suppose, suggest more so that it's like, like you're just trying to put up political signage of like, hey, these are my supporters, where people will see it. For sure. I could definitely see that. But again, I will say it doesn't look like it's an actual stop sign. It looks like it's a sign that was put on this person's fence.
Onto the guy's anti-Trump. Once again, if the shirt is real. Continuing our investigation, it seems like that on his personal...
And I also don't know what that shirt says.
social media, he posted, "Never trust a POTUS whose IQ is 30 points lower than your own and failing." And this was posted 5 days ago. So if this is real, I always have to say if, but if this is real, who's the POTUS now? POTUS will be the president. So he would be insulting the current president, hence.
Assuming the 5 days ago is, actually 5 days ago, and this thing isn't like, 3 years old, something like that, and Biden was president at the time. Possibility.
Trump. Once again, if this is real, it would appear to point to the fact that the guy was anti-Trump. And regardless of that, I would like to underline, what a stupid looking face. Man, it makes you want to slap it. As always, keeping in mind, at this point, a hateful, disgusting human being. That's what he is. And the reason why I'm so mad is because some of the victims were children. Some of his targets were little kids at church. I'd like to, and among the adults, I don't know if that was intentional. It doesn't matter at this point. He just started shooting on a crowd. Horrible. Yeah. You are the one with high IQ, I guess. So, as I was saying, to have a complete picture, we need to see if there is a manifesto. We need to see if there is any writing on other bullets or magazines. Hopefully the authorities will let us know. At the moment, it's kind of open for him to be, he could possibly be any political position. But I'll be honest with you, if this is another guy who is a far left guy, that this is a pattern. I mean, it's already a pattern, but
yeah, it is a pattern.
So. Now, there is something I want to show you because this is absolutely phenomenal. Like, this is something that, have you ever witnessed a single-digit IQ? Let me show you. So an absolute imbecile left a comment by the name was Will Cattis, left a comment on my video, the previous video when I discussed the shooting, and he said, he quotes me, 3 minutes 20. The man was killed. Good. I'm glad, close quotes. That's what I say about the shooter. He adds, did a lefty say this about Kirk, or did Metatron say this about this guy? Being upset about lefties saying exactly this about one man's death, and then doing the exact same about another's. I thought you were better than this.
Now, just as my own little aside, the fact that you timestamp and then give a quote, I like that. That's nice because you can fact check it very easily. I get a lot of quotes of like, hey, you said like this. And I'm like, okay, maybe I don't remember exactly what I said. I don't have a script that I can like, Control F search through. I don't know if I said that. I don't know. I'll take you at your word, but I can't really respond to it because I'm like, all right, I don't know if I said this. I don't know if it's something somebody else said. I don't know. I have no clue. So I end up arguing with like ghosts if I'm responding to these things. If something like this, where it's like, okay, you quote me, you give me a timestamp, and I can look at the video, I can actually go, oh, okay, yeah, I can figure out what I was saying. I can scroll back a little bit, see what the context was, and I can go, oh, okay, yeah. I agree with what I said, or, oh, no, this was stupid. I was just speaking off the cuff. And some, word salad came out. Totally, 100%. You caught me. Good job. Thumbs up. Love it. I will say, yeah, this is better. This is nicer than the stuff that I get. I'm not salty. I'm a little bit.
Oh my gosh, you absolute Denisovan. In fact, no, Denisovans could make jewelry. This guy cannot make anything.
Denisovan?
You imbecile.
What is it, Denisovan? Denisovan. The Denisovans. Is that what this is? Is this what he's talking about? Denisovan, archaic human. So they can make. Let's think. Oh, so this is cute. So they're literally saying like, so this is like saying like you Neanderthal. Okay. I have not ever heard that insult before.
This is a case of false equivalence. On one hand, we have Charlie Kirk, who is a victim since his death was caused by an assassin. Charlie Kirk is the victim. He's dead. The hundreds of thousands of radical lefties who laughed at him and his death are in the wrong morally, and I call them out. On the other hand, now, we have the shooter, who is not a victim, and his death is caused by law enforcement. You guys did a fantastic job, by the way. police officers, 27 seconds they were there, engaged courageously in a gunfight and took him down. He was neutralized because he was a threat, since he was the ongoing shooter. The victims being the ones he shot. The fact that I have to explain this. So, me being glad that he was shot dead, not laughing really, I didn't laugh, but now I'm laughing at you because you're an idiot, but I didn't laugh, I never laughed at the loss of life during this event, I wouldn't laugh, but I was glad, and I'll say it again, good that he was taken down, because that way he was stopped and he was prevented to claim more victims, since this was a mass murderer. How you think this is your... So yes, I'm glad that the shooter was dead. The two things have nothing to do with each other. And you think this is your...
I think that's very reasonable. I will say this seems to be a bit of a pattern where it's like anything you can use to kind of chip away at the reliability of someone that you disagree with. It's like very much in the sort of sophistic ad hominem attack type of thing, where you're just taking like a little snip of something. You know, you're taking a clip out of context and you're going, oh my God, Trump called Nazis very fine people. And it works because people are not going to examine the full context. They're not going to look at this kind of stuff. You're going to see this. This person gets a little bit of a quote, says, ooh, look at this quote. And if you were to jump to that thing, if you were to look at that timestamp, oh, yeah, he did say that. Oh, okay. So therefore, this person's argument must be reliable. He's giving footnotes. It's like, you know, it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's this out of context clip. And it does work because you're getting some people that are mentally lazy, not looking into the full context, and are just looking for something that confirms their own thoughts that they already have on this stuff. Like, okay, like Metatron's a bad guy. Hey, there's a comment that's got like, you know, some kind of validity to it because there's like a quote and these types of things. Therefore, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I always knew he was a bad guy. Mm-hmm. It's yeah, I mean it seems to be like a normal ongoing practice now. Is that people are just trying to score points. And I mean maybe that's always been the case. But you see it a lot now, and it's kind of like been democratized. So now instead of it being, you know, you're trying to score points in a debate against intellectual equals and these types of things, it's like, yeah, no, now like all of your foot soldiers are trying to do the same tactic, trying to chip away at, you know, anyone who espouses an opinion against their side. You're like, all right, we're gonna use the same tactic because it kind of works against other people, you know, in the big stage, but it is also just something that allows us to sow dissent.
Gotcha moment? Like, this is what this absolute cretin thinks, this Neanderthal specimen thinks, that he called me out. Hey, I called Metatron out, that hypocrite.
Yeah.
Look, that's oh my gosh, sometimes I wish my critics were at least double-digit IQ, because at least it would make it into a challenge. This is... Anyways, yeah, I'm glad they shot the mass shooter before he could continue in his spree. That does not make... I'm gonna drop it. Drop it. Will Curtis, why are you even watching my videos? Why don't you just go back to Reddit where you came from? Yeah, I swear, Charlie Kirk was the one willing to speak to the likes of you, had the patience of a saint. I don't. You shot the guy who wanted to talk to the likes of your ilk. I'm not talking shit.
Hello, everyone. I'm talking to Chris right now, and you contacted me a short time ago. Pretty distraught because actually, earlier today, you came to the realization that you say that you talked to the person who did this horrible thing in Grambling Township.
I did last week. It was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm running for city council and I'm canvassing, and I had an address on my map that I went to, and I came across a gentleman. He was very friendly, and he had interacted positively with me, and we got out of the vehicle. We started just to talk, and after a short while, the conversation went to the Church of Latter-day Saints, Mormonism, and he just made the position multiple times that Mormons are the Antichrist, and he, in not so many terms, said that several times. He gave me his background, but I just walked away from a person who had some very sharp views about Mormons.
You see, so it's clearly a case from the...
Yeah, and I've seen other interviews with this guy saying the same stuff. Again, we can't say for 100%, you know, that's direct evidence that this is the case. This is more evidence. We can always say, okay, maybe this guy's lying. Maybe this guy, you know, if he's running for city council, maybe he's doing this to up his profile for city council. That's a possibility. That is a possibility. We would need more corroboration. We'd need more evidence. But this is more evidence in the pile of, okay, you know, this person did it for just, you know, personal reasons.
Witness perspective, it's really a case of hatred towards Mormons. It doesn't seem to be politically motivated. It seems to be he just hated the church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, so you were just out campaigning for the election in November coming up, I'm assuming?
That is correct.
And so you're just shaking hands, looking to meet people. You come across his door. Have you matched it up? Is it the address the same as this person? Have you looked?
It is, yes. I mean, it is not only the address, but it's also the person that I spoke with. I have a friend in Utah who is involved with the LDS Church. I sent him a voice message saying I had a conversation with a person who had very sharp views, and it's just like you come across a lot of different people while you campaign.
Yeah.
And I shared this with him on Friday, and then we had our Sunday dinner, and I ended up seeing a photo. That was the exact guy I spoke to last week.
So you saw the guy, and I'm not gonna, the shooter. You saw his picture on the news or on social media, and what was your first reaction?
Shock. I mean, to have just interacted with a person who, again, he had very sharp views. And when we first started speaking, very positive. We just made just general chit chat, and then he went to his background, how he was a Marine, he had served overseas, and again, I'm going to paraphrase because I'm just going from memory. But he, to start new, had moved out to Utah to plow snow. He then began a relationship with a woman who was in the LDS Church, and then in not so many, the conversation changed to tattoos, which he had a lot of, and how he had to have all his tattoos removed in order to be, you know, in for certain religious ceremonies. And it was just a piece where I was very careful how I answered, because it's one of those things where I did not know what response was going to be acceptable to him. And so it's a case of like, I just wanted to get off the door and away from him.
So you just wanted to be nice and say, okay, have a nice day.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And just try to do it the easiest way possible while kind of just walking.
You see, so it was a guy who had a problem with the church specifically because of this previous relation that, of course, didn't go well.
Yep.
But then he had to remove the tattoos.
Again, I'm like, you know, that seems totally lines up with, you know, just general human behavior. That makes sense. Seems to be the case. We don't know. Can't say for sure. But yeah, like, just, you know, does this story make sense? Makes sense. Makes sense to me.
I guess because, yeah, usually, I mean, I imagine for certain ceremonies, probably, well, the wedding, I mean, it's kind of weird though. Usually, unless you're a member of the church, but even members of the church, if you have a previous tattoo, it's not like you have to remove it.
I have no
Usually
idea.
you cover it up. Like you can wear long sleeves if you're doing like a baptism, for instance, or if you're doing a talk in church and you have tattoo. But I've never heard of the church actually telling you, no, you have to remove the tattoos.
I'll be totally honest. I haven't heard one way or the other on that.
It's usually that they tell you not to do tattoos if you're like brought up in the church. And because they say, you know, the body's the temple of the spirit, and so you don't want to desecrate it. And that kind of approach, absolutely. But if you, it's just because you start a relationship with a Mormon lady, unless she was very pushy, but then it was her who was pushy, not why are you taking it over to the entire church? Not that I'm saying that.
It's not like, you know, it's impossible that, you know, the lady was very pushy, but said, oh, it's because of my religion, as opposed to, you know, he doesn't know. So maybe he's, you know, maybe she goes, I really just hate his tattoos. I'm going to make him get them removed, and instead of it being because I don't like them, it's going to be because my religion doesn't allow it. Oh yeah, you got to get rid of them to be in with these ceremonies and these types of things. That's a you know, that's a possibility that happens.
You should have taken it with her. But I'm trying to. Why am I even trying to understand the psyche of a weirdo, anyways?
And one step at a time. And again, when I first started, my daughter was with me. She was in the car because we're driving from house to house. He was very nice. I mean, he was extremely nice. My daughter has special needs. She reached out to him. He held her hand. He was extremely. He talked about his child who had a serious medical concern and how just the care there. And for whatever reason, the conversation shifted from chit chat into what are your thoughts about the Church of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
So he was obsessed. That's obsessive behavior, by the way. It's an obsessive mental disorder, clearly.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to underline he left a son who had special needs. So the guy was a coward. I don't even care he was deployed in Iraq. He was a coward. If you leave a son like that and you shoot children at church, you're a coward. It's an insult to the good veterans, who are the majority of veterans, by the way. The good veterans who serve this country. Thank you for your service, guys.
Is he in America? Is Metatron? I mean, I don't know if he's in America or if he's in Italy.
And again, my cousin played football at BYU. I have friends who, so I have a history with BYU in the Mormon Church. You don't know what you're going to say that could potentially cause a reaction. So I kept my views to myself and just and walked away.
So at no time did you feel there wasn't any threatening or violence? It was just kind of, you thought, off the wall kind of talking.
Exactly. It wasn't like next week, this Sunday, I'm going to do. It was more of a case of just views that were shared. And again, I mean, what I just walked away from was a person who was very animated, and it mentioned that, for lack of a better term, that Mormons were the Antichrist.
Okay. And obviously troubling, but nothing that you would have need to alert police for anything.
No, I mean, not to say just...
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, with the kind of stuff that people say these days.
In pop culture, but if you listen to enough YouTube, social media, like you hear different views on either side. And so it wasn't anything that I would say was violence inducing, but just people of all stripes have very sharp views. And I was like, okay. And I just, again, I have a very indirect relationship with the Church of Latter-day Saints, and I just kept those views to myself and just very carefully walked away.
Okay, so and
well, yeah, you don't want to begin a confrontation with a stranger while your daughter is with you. So, I mean,
you are saying that you are 100% sure this is the same individual you talked to. Was it last week?
Yes, it was last Wednesday or Thursday. Dave, 1,000,000% I spoke with him. I can remember where his house is. I had a conversation, yes.
Okay. A lot of people want always to know in these horrible situations why someone does this. So in your mind, this maybe answers that question?
It has to be. I mean, there was very little political talk when we spoke.
Could be.
I mean, Dave, outside of just like, hey, how are you? How's the weather? It immediately shifted towards his thoughts on the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah. How you live in the community. How sad is this? Because I got the call this morning. I heard about it. I just hard to believe. I mean, I live about...
Of course, now they go into this. I think we listened to what we needed to listen when it comes to this and the information. So it does appear to be a private matter, if you will, of just hatred and intolerance towards people who hold different beliefs than you. So keep an open mind and let's keep watching. Stay safe.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. It would also make sense, again, I mean, like, if there is that aspect of his girlfriend, wife, something like that, was, just like pushy or something like that, and then basically deflected all of her controlling behavior onto, oh, it's not me doing this. I'm not the one doing it. It's the church, the Mormon church is doing this kind of stuff. That means that all of the sort of like personal problems between those two people, he would have transferred all of that negative emotion onto the church. And then you'd go, okay, would make a lot of sense for that person to then, if they do have a mental break, if they go downhill mentally for whatever reason, they would identify that as like the persecutor, and therefore, that's the person, that's the entity that they're going to go after. And that seems to be the case as to what happened. It seems to be, I will say.
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the information I have so far. If more information...
Yep. All right. So this is that. Let's see. So we got a couple other things here. I'm going to maybe do one thing about this. Yeah, this J.K. Rowling stuff trashes ignorant Emma Watson as she backtracks on Harry Potter author Hatred. I'm curious about this. Okay. Is Emma Watson coming around to J.K. Rowling's position?
That worked with J.K. Rowling during the original Harry Potter movie years come out and trash her because she believes a woman is a woman and a man is a man, and they all hate her guts. One person that has been extremely vocal has been Emma Watson. She is somebody who fancies herself a feminist and an activist, and she believes that she is saving humankind with her opinions.
Apparently not. Apparently, this title here made me think that the rift was beginning to heal. Apparently not. She's just going into further on why it happened. I think we all had a suspicion that it was essentially because, J.K. Rowling had broken with the orthodoxy of the left and progressivism in her views on trans stuff, and Emma Watson being, an acolyte might be too far, but an adherent of the orthodoxy has to break ties with that person, partially because of her own beliefs, perhaps. And on the other side, it would be, well, if you are not part of the club, then you are excluded entirely. We've seen it happen. Obviously, nowadays, we could say, Hollywood is moving a little bit away from this. The idea of, if you're not woke, you're not going to work anymore. That is hopefully going away, and we might see some more, heterodox opinions that are acceptable in Hollywood. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm not holding my breath, but certainly for the last, 5-10 years, if Emma Watson had basically said, yeah, no, I totally agree, if she had with J.K. Rowling, very possibly there would be some significant career issues with her ongoing. J.K. Rowling's a billionaire. She doesn't need to worry about her career. She's good to go. Emma Watson, on the other hand, probably needs to be a little bit more concerned about, are you going to be able to work in your chosen field going forward?
Though she recently backtracked a little bit on her thoughts on JK, and now JK has come out and trashed her as ignorant. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and
I will just ask very quickly, does this me making a video count as me joining the community? Give me your thoughts in the comments. I'm actually really not sure.
Consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I, of course, don't agree with everything J.K. Rowling has ever said or done because really, at the end of the day, she's not an extremely based person. She is a feminist, but I do agree with her stance that a woman is a woman and a man is a man. And if you agree with that stance, you're a normal person. And if you
agreed, seconded.
Disagree with that, you are really in the minority. But J.K. Rowling has definitely been trashed by a lot of the people that became famous because of her books. And now she has bluntly trashed Emma Watson as being ignorant of how ignorant she is after the Harry Potter actress recently broke her silence on a years-long public rift with the famed author about their opposing trans views. Now, I do not necessarily know why this is happening. I can only sit here and speculate because I haven't seen Emma Watson say anything else recently, though it seems that maybe because the show's release is only a couple of years away and they're casting and they're filming and they probably want stars back that were in the original films, they might be trying to work out a deal with her, which is why she's trying to gauge what would happen if she softens her stance, because she has been extremely vocal for many years.
I will also say there's the significant possibility that it is, Emma Watson is aware that, the Overton window has shifted. The acceptable stance nowadays is different than it was 5-10 years ago when she was making all these things. The world culture in general has shifted much more closely to align with J.K. Rowling's view on trans. And therefore, Emma Watson being able to read the tea leaves can go, okay, I see where the wind is blowing. It's blowing in this direction. I want to turn my sail, go into the wind. We're good. I would rather be aligned with, the majority of people with the majority opinion because that's better for my career. And therefore, I'll say, yeah, you know what? JK is not, as evil as I said she was for a bunch of years when that was the acceptable position. Now that that's the unacceptable position, yeah, I don't have that opinion anymore. That's a possibility.
Now she has been hard stanced against JK, and now that's kind of changing. So the Harry Potter creator slammed the 35-year-old actress who played Hermione Granger in the franchise after Watson suggested last week she wanted to make amends years after ridiculing Rowling's anti-transgender remarks. Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is, which I think we all can agree that is most actors. Because while, yeah, sure, there is a portion of actors who don't ever make it big, the ones that we hear about and that we're constantly talking about are getting hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars per role, and sometimes for very short cameos. And Emma Watson.
And even the people that aren't cushioned by wealth and fame, they're still in the same area. They're still in the same culture. And therefore, even the people that are like coming around to their opinions way later, like a Pedro Pascal, not their opinions, their success way later. Like a Pedro Pascal, he's been in Hollywood for 30 years, at least 30 years, at least 25, 30 years, and only made it big in the last 5 to 10. So, do I think that he has been cushioned by wealth and fame? Unless he was the son of a super wealthy family, which is a possibility, but I don't think that's the case. He has been uncushioned by this. However, he's also never experienced real life. He's experienced Hollywood life, wherein which a super leftist progressive ideology is the bedrock of every social interaction you're ever going to have. You need to be able to say these things to get the roles, and therefore, you're unaware that those opinions are really not shared amongst the majority of people. It's just that everyone that you interact with in Hollywood has always had those things. And, it's not the experience of most people. It's not most people's opinions.
Is somebody who made so much money off of Harry Potter and off of the career she built off the back of J.K. Rowling's work that she's set for life, unless she goes out and she spends it all on, coke and hookers. I don't think that Emma Watson really will ever live a normal life. She is very ignorant to a life outside of Hollywood and a life outside of fame. And while, yes, a human being is allowed to have their own opinion, Emma Watson is somebody who's never come across as very genuine to me. Maybe that is because she's only ever been in the spotlight and she never has truly lived a normal life.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say not genuine. For me, she comes across as someone who believes what other people around her say. So that's not necessarily being disingenuous, in the sense that, she's saying what people want her to say. She's just it's that she's very much a follower of the crowd. She just goes, okay, this is what everyone around me is saying, therefore that's the opinion that I have. And she probably actually does have that opinion. which is why I would say that, she's changing her tune is because the crowd around her is changing their tune and she's therefore, she's following along with the crowd. I don't think she's, saying things that she doesn't believe. It's just that her beliefs are very changeable. That would be my guess. And that's the sense that I get whenever I listen to Emma Watson in an interview or something like that. It's like, yeah, she's just saying the things that everyone around her is saying. So um, she's not lying. She actually believes these things. It's just that her beliefs are dependent on what the crowd is thinking.
But she always seems to be extremely vocal on topics that are hot topics. She doesn't actually voice how passionate she is about other things in life. She kind of throws in her 2 cents so that she can get an article written about her, maybe get a little bit of attention. And I don't think that that's really helped her image. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. The blistering remarks come just days after Watson declared on Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast that she still treasured the renowned British author, despite coming out to attack Rowling over an anti-trans essay she penned in 2020. Now, I think that Emma Watson is really confused at this point about where she should stand and what is going to make her the most money. Now, she has starred in some feminist films and definitely stronger female roles over the years. Of course, Hermione Granger, she was in Little Women, she was in even Beauty and the Beast, but she hasn't gotten a lot of those roles since she passed that 30 hurdle. And maybe she's worried that she is backing herself into a corner because she tried to create such a family friendly image and she tried to be a role model to girls. Well, now she's kind of aging out of a lot of those films. Rowling has long said she would.
It is also possible that she's aging out of those opinions. A lot of people, as they grow older, they get more conservative. It's entirely possible that, she's seeing friends get married, have kids, people that are not necessarily in Hollywood, um, you know, living a more normal, traditional adult life. She's going, oh shit, maybe I screwed up. Maybe I wasn't, maybe I didn't actually believe in these things as much as I thought I did. These opinions that I had were maybe just a fad, maybe just a phase. I'm getting out of it now, and I maybe went a little bit too hard on my opinions on, forever paper, like aka the internet.
Would never forgive Watson as well as Daniel Radcliffe for their criticism, which the author said led to death, rape, and torture threats at the time. She even said that the greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was.
Which supports my idea that, her opinions are influenced very strongly by the general cultural thrust.
I might never have been this honest. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then asserts their right to the former friend's love as though the friend was in fact their mother. And I don't think that Emma Watson, again, is really being genuine here. I don't think that she's being honest. I think that all of the major stars that have spoken out against J.K. Rowling did so because of peer pressure, and they hoped that it was going to lead to all of these big opportunities, and that really hasn't happened.
So I will say, just because you're doing something out of peer pressure doesn't mean you're being disingenuous. You can genuinely believe something because of peer pressure. Peer pressure can influence certain people, not everybody, but certain people are very influenceable. They're heavily changeable. They're very easily manipulated. And they're very easily manipulated because their brain is just primed for that kind of stuff. These are the people that if you have them in an interrogation room and the cops are basically like, I know why you did this. I know why you did this crime. You did this crime. Here, tell me about this crime. They will confess to the crime when they didn't commit it. And they will actually believe that they did it. They were basically like in the space of an interrogation, brainwashed into believing something that never happened. And they believe it very seriously. Like, I can't believe that I stole this money or that I, killed this person or whatever. It happens. It absolutely does happen. I think Emma Watson, to me, that's the way she comes across. Not being like calculatingly disingenuous, saying everything that people want to hear. There's a little bit more of a sort of like uh, psychotic cunning to those people. I don't get that sense from Emma Watson. I get the sense from her that she's just going along with the flow. She's, again, just sort of like easily manipulated. She's very malleable in terms of her beliefs. And yeah, the fact that it is no longer culturally mandatory to say, I hate anyone who says anything against trans. She's now going, okay, we'll do that. I'll do that now.
They've struggled over the years. What has Daniel Radcliffe been in? What has Emma Watson been in? What has Rupert Grint been in? Besides the occasional small roles, Emma Watson is the most successful of them.
I think Daniel Radcliffe is actually the most successful.
And she has been kind of out of the loop for several years. So I think that these people are trying to start expanding their potential roles. And I think that that is why they are now coming to the realization that maybe they shouldn't have been going so hard against JK after all of these years. Again, we don't know their genuine stance because these people are actors and that is what they do. And they do not ever actually stand on an opinion for a long amount of time. After it becomes unfashionable, they change it. And while I don't agree with JK Rowling on everything, she is also allowed to have her opinion. And it is an opinion a lot of people hold. And I think that Emma Watson has just decided, you know what, maybe it's time to let bygones be bygones, and maybe they'll bring me back to do some promotional material for the new Harry Potter series. Maybe they'll pay me a little bit for that, but who really knows what her intentions were. There are tons of people who have taken to social media to voice their opinions on this topic, saying trash has a negative connotation. JK was honest about her feelings, refreshing and well-deserved criticism. Actors are isolated in a bubble. JK is a smart woman who grew up with a very difficult, troubled past where she was poor beyond belief and yet made something of herself. And of course, that respect is not something that somebody who is given millions of dollars while they're still a little child could ever understand. Rowling has to be one of the most based people in Hollywood.
Not a high bar, so probably.
Emma Watson's agent is looking for a desert island somewhere. J.K. Rowling is always right, or after a long period of silence, she finally responds to Emma Watson trashing her in the most underhanded way. Rowling has strong beliefs of this matter, but she survived. Emma got canceled by both sides. Have you guys seen how they try to trash her on Blue Sky? She sounds terribly petty, J.K. does. Just because you wrote a book doesn't mean Emma owes you anything. At least she's trying to make amends, and of course, people are wrecking them and absolutely ratioing them. So I'm curious to see if Emma Watson issues another response to this or if this is going to kind of be the end. But these two very clearly have a troubled past and a very complicated past. But I can't tell if Emma Watson's being genuine. I mean, she is an actor, so that is what she does for a living. And
that, these people are paid liars. It's not to the same degree as like a CIA person where you're like, okay, this person's entire modus operandi is to lie about stuff. That's what they're trained to do. And therefore, if you're trying to take them seriously, you're kind of missing the point of who and what they are. I get it. But I will also say, I don't think Emma Watson is a very good actor. So for me, yeah, I don't think that her opinions are, I don't think they're disingenuous. I don't find her to be disingenuous. I find her to be believing in things relatively strongly, but not actually having an underpinning of like why. You know, like it doesn't feel like there's like a firm, fundamental philosophical principle that she's trying to live her life by, and therefore she's an ardent feminist because she's read so much. She believes so strongly in these underlying principles. It's just that it's like, yeah, it seems to be what everybody agrees is right, so let's do that. And, you know, she'll believe that pretty strongly. And therefore, that's why she's willing to go out and make these, you know, statements, trashing J.K. Rowling, all of these types of things, is because that's what everybody's doing. She's going along with the crowd.
And J.K. Rowling really is not taking shit from anybody at this point, so it's hilarious to see these two commenting on each other. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.
Okay. Yes, I agree with all of that. If you disagree with any of these things, let me know. Check out Vera Dark over at Dark Titan Media. I'll say good luck in all your endeavors, and farewell for now. Okay, we got a couple other things. I wanted to check this thing out. I've had this in my inbox for a minute. Liz Truss is right about the deep state. So Liz Truss was PM for like what? Like, I want to say 13 days. I'm not sure if that's what it was, but it was like a couple weeks. It was like super insanely quick. Let's see what this person has to say.
I'm not in this to do anything other than change the way we're governed. You know, I give my parliamentary salary to charity. I'm not in it for the money. I don't need the money. I actually, it's cost me money because we can talk about reform and the legal fees, and we're not finished with those yet. So I think Parliament's been undermined by, and really the parliamentary process is a joke now. It's actually the civil service and the permanent secretaries who run Britain, and they're not elected. And a lot of them are extremely
Yeah, this is the same thing with the regulators in the U.S.
woke. They are questionable people in terms of both their morals, in terms of their outlook, and certainly now in terms of the fetters on them, which are supposed to be put in place by the front bench. And our front bench now has virtually nobody who has any experience of running anything. So, as you know, if people aren't held to account, then
what is the front bench? UK front bench. Front benchers. First, the group of senior politicians in the House of Commons who occupy the front row of seats on either side of the chamber. Okay, I kind of actually did think that was the case, but I didn't think it was that obvious. Traditionally known as the Treasury bench for the government and the opposition front bench for the main opposition party. These individuals are known as front benchers and include government ministers and shadow ministers. Government front benchers are appointed by the Prime Minister and are responsible for leading government departments and speaking on behalf of the government in parliamentary debates. The front bench of the government is also referred to as the Cabinet, and all other ministers, with the Prime Minister, First Lord of the Treasury, and Minister for the Civil Service sitting at the head of the Treasury bench. Okay. I didn't think it was that literal, but apparently it is. And that I did just screw that up. Doink. Let's get rid of you.
I'm not in this. It's actually the civil, and certainly now in terms of the fetters on them, which ultimately they're not elected. They outlive most parliaments, and effectively, therefore, it's them that's governing the country, and it's them that's letting the British people down. Parliament's just a charade. I mean, Parliament is it's a show for the people. It shouldn't be. And really what has to happen now is the MPs have to stand up for themselves and start to actually take back the power that the Constitution is supposed to vest in Parliament. I mean, again, just to give you an example, if Parliament passes a law, but that law is trumped by a global law, like in the case of the ECHR, then our laws aren't any more effective. So therefore, law we pass in Parliament isn't always going to be effective in this country. So we've been undermined by, I think, the people now who, if you like, the administrative structure around the MPs has taken over. That wasn't helped by the expenses scandal, which again, we won't go into that, but I think there were understandable reasons as to why MPs thought it was okay. But in the end, it worked against them and it neutered Parliament. So I think, again, the British people who vote need to open their eyes to the fact that Parliament is just a sort of media plaything to entertain them. The real power, as I always say, watch what the hands are doing. Watch what the hands of the permanent secretaries are doing. Watch what's happening in the Home Office, the Foreign Office, all the key offices of government administration.
That's who really runs the
and
country.
then see how well that front bench, which, as I say, none of whom have had any proper business experience, watch how well they're holding to account, because I can tell you they don't. And when I ask these parliamentary questions, I think I've asked more parliamentary questions than any other MP. Sometimes I get an answer, and when I ask the front bench, you can see they're visibly shocked. The civil service has got the answers to all these questions. The front bench hasn't got a clue.
So
They're more interested in tittle-tattling about what's happened in Westminster yesterday, which is irrelevant.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's fair. You know, a lot of these politicians, they're politicians. They're career politicians. They know how to get elected. They know how to spin stuff. They know optics. They know marketing. They do not know governance. They don't know executive function. They're not aware of how to run things. There's a lot to be said for that. There's a ton to be said for that. And even if they do know about running stuff, like business experience, this guy's talking about, business experience is not the same as government experience, because government experience is, or I should say governance experience. The fact of the matter is that, you know, government jobs are really highly sought after because they're super insanely secure. And also you get a large ability to defend your ability to keep that job if you are a government employee, as opposed to if you're a private employee in, you know, private sector and business. You know that you always serve at the pleasure, at the whim of your bosses. And yeah, I mean, you know, there's some stuff like severance, there's some stuff, you know, getting fired for no reason, all of that type of stuff. That's real. You do have some defenses for that. In the US, I guess I'll speak specifically for the US. I don't know if that's the case in the UK. I would imagine it is. But it's nothing like in the government. If you are a politician in the government, you have a lot of ability to defend yourself from getting fired, especially in a more socialized place like the UK. So trying to eliminate stuff in the UK is very difficult. And in the US it is too. It's just probably more difficult in the UK.
Relevant.
So that's who really runs the country.
The 23, 24, 25, 26 permanent secretaries. I mean, I can name some. You probably can't name any of them. They're the people who run Britain.
Right. This is like what Liz Truss said this as well. She couldn't even do anything.
Interesting. I was thinking he was talking about, so the permanent secretaries. So I was thinking he was thinking about, like, you know, all the bureaucrats, as opposed to they actually have permanent secretaries. So they have permanent, like, that's interesting. They actually have like permanent, like, cabinet heads or something like that. Weird.
When she was prime
Well, she knows. She knows. I mean, I've spoken to Liz. I think, look, Liz and Kwasi didn't play their hand particularly well, and they probably needed to bring more people with them, and they gave toads like Andrew Bailey the opportunity of undermining their effectively that they were elected to govern the country, and these sort of bureaucrats all conspire to undermine her.
You know what?
But she went at it a bit like, and I've told her this, a bit like a bull in a china shop. But I think what she was trying to do was essentially right.
It reminds me a little bit in my own job here of when I talk with celebrities you want to get on the podcast, and it's their PR teams. And the PR teams, if they don't make you take questions out and then edit things and stop you saying anything of any interest, they're not doing anything. So they sort of have to. And I think you get this kind of red tape person, all kinds of businesses, all kinds of industries.
You
They're
do.
the ones who, I mean, it can get quite serious, I think, in an authoritarian dictatorship or something. Those are the guys who rise right to the top, aren't they?
Well, I think again, people underestimate the power of. Well, first of all, let me say I haven't edited it at all. I told you could ask me whatever you want.
You have not. No, that wasn't me having a slight dig.
But
at
I mean,
Rupert.
no. Look at the rise of PR. Look at the rise of spin. Look at the rise of, the sort of the vested interests in the media. It's all one big game now. I think the judiciary is in it. It's all one big game, and actually, the real voices are often drowned out by this what I call malign framework within which Britain's being undermined. So no, I look. I mean, it's an eye opener for me. I've spent my life trying to make my own way. I'm self-made, trying to provide for my 4 children, trying to indulge my passion, which is farming, and I'm fortunate now I've managed to acquire a farm, and I love it. It's the real world. It keeps you humble. But I look at what's happening in Parliament, and with the experience I've got in multiple industries, multiple businesses, 20 years in the city, I can seldom get a question in. I'm an independent MP. And even though I've got expertise in football, even talking on the football governance bill was very difficult for me because I have very little standing. And Parliament's not interested in actually going to people who've got knowledge. It's interested in running using raw power, and the power of the elected government, Andrew, it's incredible. They can sideline people, they can ignore debate, they can filibuster, they can. So with the rape gang inquiry, I've got my own privately crowdfunded rape gang inquiry. The government's promised us a statutory inquiry. But, several times there was, Esther McVeigh and I were going to have a debate on it in Parliament, and it was literally, they keep pushing it back. They can use the agenda. They can slip in an urgent question or a ministerial statement. And suddenly, you've run out of parliamentary time. It gets pushed on.
Can I ask you a favour? Please.
Oof. Yeah, not great. All right, so let's see. Where do I want to go from here? I want to see what we still have. Empathy. Right, and then this is all this stuff. Right. Okay. Kind of curious. Okay. Shocking truth about Nintendo's most expensive game ever. I think this is in regards to like Metroid Prime or something like that.
Wednesday, but Craig wasn't there. And now I'm going to say it again loud and proud. I love Metroid Other M. Well, Tenarian, it's funny you mentioned that. What's that?
That's incorrect.
Very incorrect, Tenarian.
Other M. I thought it was Prime.
Like, that is gay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tenarian. All right. Hey, speaking of Metroid, did you see that Nintendo has officially announced the budget for their highest, most expensive game ever?
No.
And it is Metroid Prime 4.
Oof.
Metroid Prime 4 is the most expensive game ever made by Nintendo.
That makes sense because it's been in development for 45,000 years. I think it's like
Yeah, I was going to say, it has to just be the fact that it's been in development for so long.
games they made, right?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes, I think yes. Now, with that said, let's play the game. We have talked about games that have cost $500,000, $300 million, $1 billion in the case of GTA 6.
I thought it was $2 billion.
Whatever it is, it's a lot of fucking moolah, right?
Some money,
And
baby.
you know what? They're going to make it back really quick.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, how much, Phil, do you think Metroid Prime 4, the most expensive game ever made by Nintendo, cost them?
Okay, I do want to actually check about this. What do we think? It's been in development for a lot of years. However, that's also normal for Nintendo. Nintendo normally will put out a game, in like one of their main flagship series. Mario, Metroid, Zelda, something like that, every like 4 or 5 years. So I think it's normal for them to do that. And I think part of the reason they do that is so that they can have smaller teams and therefore they don't have to pay as much. I think that's the case. So I don't think it's going to be a huge number. I don't think it's going to be an enormous, crazy number. I don't think Japanese companies go insane with their budgets as much. I'm going to say it's going to be smaller than you would expect. I'm going to say it's going to be like, $100 million, something like that. It's going to be way less money. I could be wrong, and it could be the other direction because it's been in development for so long. I think it's going to be less money than we think. Although I'm trying to think, what was the budget on like Breath of the Wild? What do we think? Do we think Breath of the Wild was like 150 million? So I'm going to say between 1 and 200.
And chat, you get to ask, you get to go as well. Let's go with you, Phil, first.
I would say maybe like 300 million.
300 million? All right, Flawed.
I'm going to say 500 million.
500 million? Michael, have you heard this story? You hear us talking about it?
I'm doing work stuff over here.
Michael, he's hanging out over in the corner. Michael, how much, you get to guess, Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo's most expensive game ever, how much have they spent on developing the game?
Nintendo's notorious for low cost. I'm going to go 125 million.
Michael says 125 million.
That's around what I was thinking.
Gentlemen, you have all gone over.
Okay.
Can I guess?
Oh, yes, go ahead, Rob.
1 billion.
What? What is going on?
I literally
Labs trolling.
Anything that I said.
I was like 1 billion.
I said they all went over. And you went slow.
Yeah, they're
You didn't
just
go
trolling.
more than them. You
Just trolling.
together.
10 billion at least.
I just wanted to say a number, so I just.
Oh
my God, it's
we need to
incredible.
go back to your tower retard button.
I actually would. I'd guess I'm going to say 85, and the reason why that's not surprising. Metroid typically actually doesn't do that well. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Especially in Japan, it doesn't do that well. So I don't think they'd give a lot of resources.
But it's their most expensive game ever. So you have to think about it that way.
I'm gonna say I'll say 90 million.
Okay, well, I didn't ask because that's you looked at my computer.
Oh, I couldn't see it.
Okay, cool. $100 million.
I was right.
Now, no, you actually 10x'd it. Now, very
So I actually said 100
because when you look at the exorbitant cost of games nowadays, Nintendo. Michael nailed it, right? Nintendo has been able to keep the cost of these games down. They have very low budget games compared to the revenue that they generate, which is how you become Nintendo and have more money than God, right? They do what they do. They do it well. They work within their limitations. They keep costs low. They make a shit ton of money. It's a very basic business plan, produce things for a low cost, sell a shit ton of them, and make a lot of money.
Right.
I step on coke and fentanyl like that and make a lot of money.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I think
You're not stepping on fentanyl though. You're adding it.
It makes me wonder how much games like I don't know, the newest Donkey Kong cost, like Bonanza, or you go back in the day to a game like Super Mario World. The budget for that, was it $2 million to make the game, $1 million to make the game, which you go back 20, 25 years, 30 years, that was $4 to $5 million today, right?
Sure.
But the longevity that these games have, the ability to sell them multiple times over and over and over again.
Yeah, I bought like 5 Switches, bro. To be honest, I bought them for family members. I bought multiple myself.
For Switch, I don't know
the
about that. That
Switch,
seems
the
so
one that
silly.
doesn't have the handles to come off it. I've been buying Switches since they came out, basically.
Really?
And all the same games.
Average.
35 million, you think is the average?
Yeah, I
For their
think
games?
so.
Yeah, maybe like 35 or like 50 million.
I can see that.
Like Smash Ultimate, right? They had a lot of collab and everything like that.
Yeah.
So and that game is still cheaper than Metroid Prime 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I'm going 45 million.
They also make the hardware, so you figure like they're in bed with the hardware. They know how to build for it. They build all proprietary stuff, so you're not like falling victim to the Unreal Engine and all that other stuff. Like you don't have to go cross-platform.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but they do have to build out their own engines then.
So everything is tight. I think they run a really good chip. There's never any patches, which I love about Nintendo. There's typically no patches. So
that's not true. There are patches. They're just done very behind the scenes.
So yeah, I think for me it's 30 million average Nintendo game, and that's why I think that's why it started with Metroid as 30 million. But it just they made so many iterations of this thing.
Right. I want to say 31 million.
I think that's probably about right.
Thank you.
31 million and 1 cent.
So the average cost, this is just a quick search online, which, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but it says it typically ranges from a few $100,000 for smaller titles to between $5 and $10 million for larger.
And like Ubisoft, like, holy crap, man. Yeah.
And then look at the bloat. Like, look at how big these games are. So if you look at like an Ubisoft, you look at like a Western AAA title, these things. If you're going to download it, it's like, okay, you need 100, 200 gigabytes of free space on your computer because they don't optimize at all. So they're just like, they're really poorly programmed. I mean, maybe poorly programmed is like the wrong way to look at it, but it is just like, they're so bloated with size. And you figure, okay, if they're that bloated with size, they've got to be bloated in like other ways too. And that would show up in the budget. That makes sense.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah. For trash games. Nintendo is very fun.
Right. And it tells you a lot about how those games are made and the unoptimization nature of the teams more than anything else. You're talking about giant teams. Like, you don't need, the way those businesses are set up. There's just people doing a bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
A lot of consultants.
It's crazy.
It's
So
it's like the indie costs there. That's like an independent studio kind of.
Yeah.
Those numbers are right.
That's crazy.
it's great.
That's crazy.
There is a lot of things that people can say about me. I've got my flaws. But if there is one thing we can say, is that I do speak my mind. I've been doing it consistently for 12 years. And I would say that is one thing that even my haters may recognize about me. So today, I'm going to say the unthinkable. I'm going to make a statement that many of us think, but I'm not saying.
Uh-oh.
Christian lives matter.
Oh! Okay, cancel immediately. Yeah, definitely get rid of this guy.
Now that I said that, since I have nothing to do, I'm waiting for the lawsuits that are going to be filed against me.
Let's see it. Let's see it. I want to see these. Yeah, it's bad.
I would like to explain
bad in there.
what I mean by it. Why am I saying this sentence? And I need to tell you a story. So let's rewind. A few years back, I was in Sicily, sitting down on my beautiful little balcony, enjoying the sunshine of my Mediterranean island. And then I saw this video. And this video popped in my algorithm feed, showing this man who was murdered. That's what it was saying. So I click, because I'm like, oh, who got murdered? And the headlines were all about police brutality. And I'm like, well, police brutality is not a good thing. Police are supposed to serve and protect. So I'm watching. And the guy is on the floor, and there is a police officer with his knee on his neck. After that, I investigate and I try to figure out, okay, what is this? So I'm investigating, and I start seeing this slogan all over the place. Black Lives Matter. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, of course Black Lives Matter. Yeah, clearly, obviously, we are all children of God. So, yeah. Totally. And so I see that people are making shirts and wearing hats. So I'm looking into it myself. I'm like, I wouldn't mind wearing a shirt like that.
Reasonable.
But then another video entered my feed, and I'm seeing so many cities burning. And people breaking shit.
Let's ignore that. Ignore that. That didn't happen. That was, that was mostly peaceful.
Destroying public
property
fire. And behaving like absolute maniacs.
Whoa,
so I'm thinking, wait, what? Excuse me, what is this? So I pause and I order nothing. And I'm like, I need to look deeper into this. And I found the one video that made me understand that I will never wear a shirt with that sentence ever. This video showed a group of people that were screaming Black Lives Matter, and they were going around and destroying shops in order to loot. But then they got into this shop, and the owner, a woman, was still there. And so they just start beating her up. So her husband comes out to try and defend his wife, and they beat him to a pulp. So then after this, I noticed that people were starting to respond to this slogan, saying statements such as, all lives matter.
Right.
Once again, I thought to myself, yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely, all lives
Sounds-
matter. I think
sounds
that's
correct,
a good way
yeah.
to respond, particularly in light on what we have seen. But then the mental manipulation began, and they were like, no, you can't say that, all lives matter, because if the only lives that are struggling are black lives, if you say all lives matter, then saying all lives matter is out of place, because black lives are the ones that we should care about, not the rest of lives. And this was a red flag for me, because it started to sound less about helping black people that really needed help, nothing against that, but it sounded more like, oh, this is an opportunity to attack white people based on hatred and racism against them, white people.
No.
So that's when I started seeing the other slogan, White Lives Matter. Then I'm like, yeah, of course. Again, as a base slogan, in light of the fact that apparently now you need to be ashamed of being a white person, at least according to Gemini AI, I'm starting to say, by their own logic, they now can't reply, no, all lives matter to someone who says white lives matter. Why? Well, because it seems like the only people you can publicly attack without having any sort of repercussion are white people. Thus, if you say all lives matter now, it doesn't apply. Anti-white sentiment is the only form of racism that for some reasons is tolerated. I'll make a video about.
I mean, this is not new. We've definitely been hearing this for a while. It's just that now it's kind of actually more acceptable to say it. Yeah. It's unfortunate to be the case.
About that. Before today, I want to come back to my slogan. Why am I saying Christian lives matter? Is it because I don't think that non-Christian lives matter? I have no problem with you answering back all lives matter to that. But the reason why I'm saying Christian lives matter is because of the shooting that occurred where Christian children were selectively targeted and attacked while they were praying to our Heavenly Father. It's because of the previous shooting that occurred in a Tennessee school where once again Christian children were specifically targeted. I'm saying it because of the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, my brother in Christ. So I will say it again. Christian lives matter. Christian lives matter. There we go, finishing the video the day after. This is my experience. Words have meaning, but at the end of the day, they are a construct of our mind. The reality is, I've never been an individual who cares much about how someone says something. I'm definitely not someone who's going to try to police the way people speak or trying to tell them what's appropriate or inappropriate to say.
I will say, this guy's pretty cool. So I made a video about him, and he actually responded to it. He didn't have to. He's got a million subscribers. You know, I think this guy's, you know, at the very least, you'd say hardworking. And I mean, I think it actually is him as opposed to someone from his team doing it, which is why I'm watching more of his videos. Because, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate the extra sort of effort he's putting into and seemingly like the extra conviction that he has for these things. I really do appreciate it.
Or tell them which words are more appropriate than others. No, I'm interested in what you think, what you feel, what you mean to say. And I will be as charitable as I can be. Maybe you said it this way, but you didn't really mean it. Most of the times, if you tell me that, I'll believe you. People fixate on the appearance of words. They don't look at the substance of the individual.
Very true.
We have lost that ability. And of course, with all sorts of universities now trying to tell us the correct way to speak, and in this climate of shallow judgment that we inhabit now, the thin layer of plaster on the wall of your discourse is all that matters to people. Because by looking at it, they can immediately decide if you belong to their in-group or if you're part of the out-group.
Yeah.
If you are part of their tribe, or if you belong to their category that they have deemed to be the enemy. And this is why when I see hashtags like this, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, I'm deeply insulted by the superficial nature of the way we now experience intersocial communication. And I blame our constant online addiction for it. And political propaganda, of course. But this is where we are, and we need to analyze, we need to comprehend, we need to thoroughly understand so we can mend. Not for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot to be said for this. I will also say these are the early days. You have to be looking at social media as, it's this brand new, big, giant, kind of like species defining thing. In the same way like the printing press was, in the same way that, all of these big, large societal technological shifts are. This is a thing in communication. This is a big difference. This is a big, giant leap. It's a big change. And this is very early days, and we're still working through it. We're still figuring out how it's going to affect us, how we're going to use it, how it should be used, what are the downsides, what are the upsides, what are the trade-offs, how do we value those trade-offs, how do people manipulate them, how are they used for good, evil, all of these different things. And we still haven't figured it all out. We still haven't even figured, probably not even most of it yet. Part of the idea of, slogans being around and, like a BLM, these types of things, they exist in this kind of Wild West arena where people have realized that a certain segment of the population is very invested in social media, more so than they are in real life, And therefore, if they see a slogan that kind of resonates with them, they're going to seize on it more so than they would, anything else happening again in their real lives, in their day-to-day existence. And people can tell that they can make money off of that. The BLM stuff is a good example because we can see that all the people that, started it, they were running it, they were doing that kind of stuff, they made a ton of money off of it. And that seems to have been their goal, was to just, grift off of it. They did it. It worked. Good for them. Not really good for them because they screwed up the rest of the country. But that was the point. I think down the line, this stuff shakes itself out where we go, oh, okay, we're seeing somebody on social media talk about, oh, look at this thing, get upset about this, and we're going to respond to them like we would like a used car salesman, where they're like, ugh, another one of these guys, get out of here. You're, like a telemarketer or something like this. Like, nope, get rid of you. Don't care. Stop calling me. God, these guys are annoying. All these people saying BLM, Black Lives Matter, all these people saying, oh man, hashtag blah, 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 blah. Ugh, God, another one of these guys. Ugh, get rid of them. I think relatively quickly that will be the case. Now, there's always going to be, in the same way that, hey, guess what? Used car salesmen, they exist, and they're still able to grab enough people to make a living on it. You've got people that are grifting in, like charity scams. You've got telemarketers. They're making some degree of money by tricking old people. So yes, you are going to have some small amount of political social media cultural grifters who are making a little bit of money. But it's not going to be, they're making millions of dollars like you had in the past. In, I'm going to say, hopefully 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, something like that, it is going to be relegated to like, all right, you basically got like a minimum wage scam job. And that's what it's going to be. That would be my guess, is that's how it's going to shake out.
But for the future, we will build for our children. So I'll say it again. Christian lives matter. People will take it the wrong way. They will say, are you saying that people who are not Christians don't matter then? And that's why I say it.
Mm-hmm.
I say it because I know what I deeply, really mean when I say that. And all people need to do is to ask.
Mm-hmm.
If you're enjoying this video,
and that is the thing where I think, you know, anyone who is saying like, "Oh, do you mean this?" They're so happy that he said something that like could possibly be taken the wrong way, that they're immediately going to do it, even though that is the point. The point of this is to say something that is like obviously true. No one can really disagree with it. And yet there's going to be some people that will, and that is the other point of this. The other point of it is to demonstrate that anyone who's saying these things is trying to manipulate you. They're saying, "Oh, well, do you mean this?" No. And people are aware now of the grift. They're aware of the way in which these slogans are trying to hijack us and make us not think of things. They're, you know, "Oh, we're anti-fascist. How can you be against being anti-fascist?" And I was like, well, it's because it doesn't actually like mean that. It means that you're, you know, like a left-wing progressive violent terrorist organization, and you just called yourself a title that is trying to give you cover. Like, "Oh, this is the Save All Puppies group." And it's like, okay, well, how can you be against saving all puppies? Are you some kind of lunatic? Are you a monster? And it's like, well, the Save All Puppies organization is like kidnapping children and sacrificing them to Moloch. And then they have like a little plaque that says, "We're doing this to save puppies." Okay, yeah, I think I am against the Save All Puppies organization. The idea of saving all puppies, yeah, okay, I guess I'm for that, but definitely not for the like kidnap and sacrificing to a demon children. And I kind of think most people are aware of that now, right? And it's like, yeah, we're kind of clued in now that the group that says we're all super good because this is our title maybe doesn't mean that. They're just using that as their title to grab more people. You know, that seems to be the case. And I think people are wising up to that, which is good. All right, who else do we have here? I don't want to go for this one. I'm going to actually go for the J.K. Rowling stuff. We got a little bit into that. Keir Starmer. Let's check some Keir
Viewers got in
Starmer.
touch and wanted us to ask this question. Russ Brown wanted us to ask you if you really believe that those profiting from human trafficking will think, "Oh dear, I have to check your digital ID now. I can't carry on paying you £1.50 an hour to work in my sweatshop."
I'm absolutely convinced that amongst the reasons that people travel through France, which is a safe country, to come to the United Kingdom, amongst the reasons is because it's easier to work in our illegal economy than it is in other countries. And we have to deal with it.
Bosses who are prepared to hire people illegally are not asking them for their national insurance card. So what's the evidence? What makes you think they're suddenly going to ask them for a digital ID?
God, he's really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID in order to work, because we have to stop.
This has been my point the whole time. I didn't see as many people talking about this. I'm glad somebody did. This should have been the first question that people were asking. Like the one representative, let me think if I can find it. It was.
If you just ignore.
Not this guy. Not this guy. Where was it? This one.
Guess what? The British Prime Minister hired somewhere.
This one. So this question that they were asking was pretty good. You know, she got very flustered because of it. But the question they should have been asking was this. Hey, people are doing this illegally already. They're not following the law. Why do you think that enacting a new law will influence any of the people that are doing illegal shit? It's the exact same rationale you would use for someone who's trying to take away like gun rights or something like that, where you'd go, oh, we're trying to make sure that no more crimes are being committed by guns. And it's like, okay, the vast majority of all gun crime is done with like people that are not able to legally own guns. And therefore, enacting more gun laws is not hitting criminals using guns. It's hitting law-abiding gun owners.
Legal working. If you look at any of the raids, we've massively increased the number of raids on working premises. It is absolutely clear that people are working illegally in numbers.
But why do you think that them having
acceptable.
a digital ID, having to have a digital ID, would stop that problem when right now people are meant to have a national insurance number and card, and if they're not asked for that, a boss is willing already to break the rules? What's the difference going to be?
Well, the difference is this is on point of starting, not a retrospective exercise as it now is. It is an automatic collection of the information by the government, so we know exactly who is working in our economy, and it will help us enforce the rules that are there. But there's no point people saying to me, why do we need it, when we all acknowledge there is a problem. People are working illegally in our economy. It is amongst the reasons that people want to come to the United Kingdom. We have to deal with that. I made a pledge that we would do whatever was necessary, use whatever.
You know what really astonishes me? Just how poor of a politician the Prime Minister of Britain is. The man can't debate. Hey, put yourself in his shoes, right? You think you are the god of the United Kingdom, not the king, right? Because like the king still doesn't have all the information that you're trying to get. No, you're literally God. Like you want to know what every single citizen is doing, what everything in their life they're doing, and you want to control absolutely every single aspect. Like there is nothing that a British citizen should be able to do without the government knowing, or at least having a say in it. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's their job, whether it's where they go on holiday or how they spend their money. Keir Starmer wants access to all of that. Private communication, private messages, people talking with each other, people
All right, so let's make a list of all the lies that this guy's saying. I don't have any so far.
protesting. Like there is no limit, right? And he's got the technology to be an actual god. You know, like when you hear a person from a rural area saying that God is watching, you need to behave. In Britain, there is no faith. Like, you know for sure that Keir Starmer is watching.
Yeah?
Like, it is guaranteed. Every time you make a transaction, every time you get a job, every time you surf the internet, like, you know.
Still, come on, let's think. All the lies. Let's, again, I've gotten none so far. But definitely correct me if I'm wrong.
That Keir Starmer is watching. And so, obviously, if you put yourself in Keir Starmer's shoes, you get the idea that, well, maybe not all people like that. You know, like, sure, you got your academic agents that believe in the sovereign and stuff. Like, okay, fine. But, like, other than that, like, most people are uncomfortable. And so you need to sell them the bullshit. You sell them the bullshit. It's like, yes, it's for your own good. You know, there's a problem, and this is why we need to take away some of your liberties. Right? Like, think of the children. Think about, like, what else do you care about? Immigration. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we're responsible for it, but now we have a solution. And you know that you need to do the bullshit. But at least do the bullshit properly, right? Like, if you're a educated man.
It's just, like, bad craftsmanship. Come on.
Capable of critical thinking. You should think about, okay, I'm at an interview at the BBC. Like, surely they're going to try to at least pretend that they're asking me some tough questions, and I need to be able to justify them. So if I was Keir Starmer, and I was asked, like, well, what do you do about the human traffickers and the drug dealers? The normal answer would be like, well, obviously, every single society has criminals, and obviously the digital ID is not going to crack down on 100% of the population. But, like, if it at least cracks down on 70% of the illegal workers, it's still better than it was yesterday.
Yep.
Why couldn't he say that? Why is it so difficult? Like, I would be like, yeah, like the human traffickers, you know, every single nation on Earth
For
has
that.
like a black economy, and we're going to make sure that we crack down on that. While we're also cracking down and tightening the screws.
I mean, this is like an interesting question that I'm just thinking, which is, do you think he's actually this bad at his job that he doesn't know this stuff? Or is it just like, we don't need an excuse? We can just do this. We can just actually take your rights and these types of things away. We don't need a reason anymore. Yeah, we don't even really need to pretend anymore.
On the legal economy.
We took away your free speech. You had a march, maybe. We just called you racist, and that was it. We were good. Things got back. You hung up some flags. We told you to take them down. You took them down, or they got taken down. Yeah, you know, we're not really too worried about it. We're just gonna keep going.
Again, I don't agree with that, but at least it would make sense, right? How much does he make though? Like, let me check. Okay, hold
Let's
on.
see.
Let's ask Grok, right? How much does the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom makes per month? Let's get him to think harder.
Let's
Where do I
see.
click? Like, I know there's a button where you can get them to think harder.
Oh yes.
Did they remove that? Oh, never mind. It's on default, right? Like, Rob is going to struggle really hard right now to find out how much the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, elected by everyone, the god of the United Kingdom, is making per month.
Let's see.
It's got up-to-date info from September 28, 2025.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not kidding, like, calling him the god of the United Kingdom. Like, he wants to control the internet, right? Like, his government asked Apple to give to give them a back door so that he can see what Americans are communicating and what they have in the cloud. Isn't that insane? Well, like, what other person in human history would have that power?
Let's see.
How much do you think he makes though? I have no idea. I'm genuinely curious, but clearly, like, if I can
I think
handle myself.
I think the president makes like $250,000 a year. So I would imagine the prime minister makes a little bit less than that. Obviously it's gonna be in pounds. I don't know what the pound dollar exchange rate is. I saw some numbers, but it was like 175,000 pounds, which I would say is roughly probably 225,000. So I would say relatively similar to presidential salary, $250,000.
Better in an interview than him, you know, maybe I should get the job. I need a digital ID, don't I? Like, in order to become the British Prime Minister, do I need a digital ID? See, this is what he is doing. He's protecting himself. Like, without the digital ID, I could go into Britain illegally and then run for Prime Minister. And since I can handle myself better in the debate, I would probably win.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the actual answer.
Oh.
Look at this shit, right?
Yeah.
Look at this shit. How many times do you not hear leftists say about taxing the rich or that rich people are making too much? Why is this justifiable, right? Look at this shit. Look at it. Like, he's not producing anything. You do understand this, right? Like, for the economy, he's not making anything.
He's not.
I mean, he's making digital IDs, I guess, which, by the way...
He's making regulations. He's making digital IDs.
Apparently, a relative of Tony Blair is involved. I think it's like the son of Tony Blair that's behind the company that's making digital IDs.
What?
Oh,
No.
goodness gracious, right? Left wing, right wing, but the grift is eternal.
Yeah.
So, someone is making a product that people don't want, and then the government forces that product, and that's how he makes money. And on top of that, he gets this amount of chak-ching.
Yeah. Just, I mean, that's like nothing, though. That's nothing. That's just to like, that's just as an excuse. Because the stuff that he's actually getting is like, I mean, that's like pocket change.
Well, British people are hungry. See, this is what I don't get. I hear a lot of leftists saying, oh yes, the rich, the 1%, tax the rich, blah, blah, blah. Why do they never, ever, not even once, talk about why don't we lower the wage of our politicians?
Mm-hmm.
Why does a politician need this much? Huh? I know CEOs that actually produce something for the economy that are making far less than this.
Yep.
It's okay. He does need digital ID in order to... or actually, no, hold on. I don't even think he needs digital ID. Right? Because digital ID is for the peasants. Like, if you want to get employed. He's not employed. He's
That's true. All right. Let me check this Roy Sutherland stuff. I wanted to check out the Gary Stevenson stuff.
Bill Gates, I think, Ted Turner, I don't know if it's Zuckerberg, but they're tech bros are buying up huge swathes of agricultural land. Bezos, I think, is a massive landowner. Now, hold on. If
Bill
you're
Gates.
that ingenious, but the best use you can think of your money is to buy land, there's something wrong with land, isn't there? Which is that nobody's making it anymore. It's that famous, I think it might have been Harpo Marx or somebody, whatever you do, if you've got money, buy land, because they're not making it anymore.
Yeah.
Except in Holland to a limited extent.
Yeah. Lex Luthor.
And what you're doing now, if you buy a buy-to-let property in London, is not the same as what you were doing in 1987. And this is one of the problems, I think, which is that what happens in economics is people see a desirable trend, like more people going to university, and assume that you can extrapolate it indefinitely without something different happening. Now, my father was a landlord. We lived in a big Victorian house in the Welsh borders, and it was split into 6 sort of apartment/flats/houselets. And we lived in the biggest one and had most of the use of the garden, but not exclusive use of all the garden. And in the time I was kind of teenage, going through the 70s and 80s, we must have had 40 or 50 tenants come and go, maybe a little less. Most of those people at that location at that time could have bought a house if they'd wanted to, but they were choosing to rent. If you own a house in London now, most of the people who are renting from you have no choice but to rent. That's different. You started out being a landlord and you were giving people optionality. Now you're basically imposing an obligation. What you are doing by buying property in London is buying the rights to tax the younger generation. And in fact, we wonder about, why why young people are quite left wing. Well, they do get something out of their taxes. If you give money to rich people, they save it. Now, if they're saving things in investing, if you're Elon, where you live in a tiny house, but you're building a rocket ship, okay. Because that is actually productive it's innovative. He does actually live. I think he lives in his own tiny house, doesn't he? I think. I don't know.
He's got one. I don't know if he lives there.
Now, what you will find in the economy is, this is US data. Apologies.
Yeah.
The poorest or the lowest earning 20% of the population, quintile, I think it's called, isn't it? Earn X. The highest earning quintile earn 14 times as much, but they only spend 4 times as much on consumption. The rest will typically now, look, if it goes into their pension, fine, great. You want to defer expenditure. If it goes into basically propping up a property bubble, which is unsustainable, is a massive drag on the productive economy. Massive drag on, I would argue, a massive drag on motivation, by the way. One thing that
I would agree with
about
that argument
capitalism is people will work harder and try and earn more if they have something to aspire to. And I was underspent on property because I'm basically extremely vulgar and I like a bit of bling. If you give me a bit of spare cash, my wife would go, "Ooh, let's go buy a bigger house." I go, "Fuck that hot tub." My tastes are fundamentally nouveau riche. You're not right with you. You know what I mean? But actually, let's look at the opportunity cost here, which is, think of what you could do with the £140,000 you're paying for an extra bedroom that you hardly use. What I think is going on there is the extra bedroom is an investment, is a tax-efficient investment vehicle. It's not utility in the conventional economic sense.
It's fair.
Because, and you keep getting these old people who literally they're sitting in a £2 million house and they're shopping at Lidl and they're worried about the price of lemons. Yeah. Well, when I was young, if someone said one day you're going to be a millionaire, but you're really going to be worried about lemons, I go, it's bollocks. So a millionaire, flash motor, all that sort of stuff. But now it's become, I think, absolutely poison. Now, to our grandparents' generation, they'd look at us and they go, you've got all these amazing consumer goods. Looking at television is fantastic. You've been to America. That's incredible.
You can eat at a restaurant.
Your car, you eat out at a restaurant casually. Everything that consumer capitalism has provided has got not necessarily better, but it's got more accessible. Sometimes it's got cheaper. Sometimes it's got better. Sometimes it's got both.
Right.
By the way, air travel was never as exotic in the 50s as people pretend, by the way. It's a bit of a myth. The idea that it was all wonderful. And it was insanely expensive.
Right. There you go.
All of that stuff you suddenly have access to.
Because it was super regulated. You actually couldn't... I don't think you could... Yeah, there was no competition. You had to pay a certain amount of money. So the reason why people say that air travel was so exotic and cool and special and all that kind of stuff was that was the only way they had to compete. Was like, you got like the best meal ever. You had, the prettiest stewardesses. You had, all... That was the only thing to compete on. Because there was no difference in like prices between airlines.
And people are going, no, I think I'll buy a sort of 2-bedroom flat in Fulham. Now, my grandparents would go, look, I don't understand. You have all these wondrous things. Why do you live in such a crap house? But all those things cost almost nothing.
Where are you from, man? I'm from the U.S.
A flat in Fulham cost 900,000 quid.
Where are you from?
That's whack.
The problem is
proper whack.
Because
they're a hot tub. Seriously,
I agree. The solutions to these problems, though, are politically difficult, and it falls into the building 3 new towns along HS2 would be
just the VAT on property, and we had no VAT on goods. That would actually even thing. I don't think there should be VAT on pubs. I don't think pubs should pay VAT. They're a public service.
I'll sign up to that.
But actually,
I don't know what VATs are.
Look at this tax system. Everybody goes
value-added
fucking
tax.
bananas if you suggest they should pay inheritance tax. I'm all in favour of inheritance tax because when I pay it, I'm dead, so I'm not that bothered. Now, I've got kids, and I want to give them a reasonable
Wisconsin in the middle of nowhere?
The main reason I'm worried about inheritance tax is so that my kids can have a fucking deposit on a house because houses are too fucking expensive. So it's become entire... This is this wonderful woman called Eliza Furby. Have you read her book, The Inheritocracy? Brilliant, brilliant book. What we're doing is we're creating a kind of property-based caste system, which is when your parents bought a house and where they happen to live in 1973 basically determines the wealth of future generations. It's a racket. That's not meritocratic. So here's the weird thing. And the Labour Party are just as guilty of this bollocks because they used to say...
That's relatively fair. Again, I'm like, I'd say that's relatively fair. I can still say that, like, look, the idea of wealth tax in general, not a great idea. In super specific targeted fashion where you'd say like, okay, let's look at like property tax or like land tax, something along those lines. That kind of stuff is like potentially useful. Probably not in all areas because you'd say like, all right, what about like property tax on things like farms? So, okay, so now you've got a property tax on your farm for, 2% of the value of the farm. You didn't have to pay that before. Okay, well, the profit margin on your farm was already razor thin. If you then add another 2% tax onto that, you're probably going to have to sell off part of your farm to do it, and to sell off part of your farm is going to devalue, the total value of your farm because you're over a barrel trying to sell it. People are going to beat you up on the price for it. And then, the actual value of the farm is going to go down because the amount of food that you can produce is going to be less. And therefore, you're going to get into a cycle where all of the working land is going to be like just super, super screwed up because of it. However, for things like, property taxes in like London, something like that, that's more reasonable because you could say, all right, there are a fair number of like properties that are just being held by like foreign entities, like people from China that are rich that basically just bought a bunch of like super crazy $1 million flats, apartments or whatever in London as an investment. So they're like, all right, this is like a $50 million apartment in London. No one lives there. Nobody's doing anything there. They don't rent it out. It's just there. It's vacant. All of those properties could be rented out. All of those properties could be rented out. And it's not going to make, like, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in terms of like the amount of houses available, because again, these are like large single family houses. They're like huge giant mansions. They're not built in a way to accommodate a lot of different people. And therefore, okay, yeah, like it would help a little bit because there'd be a couple more properties on the market. But in general, if you were to have this, property tax, and therefore this property tax incentivizes the people that are holding these big giant, $50 million whatevers to turn them into rental spaces and then chop them up and then, collect rental money from them to pay for that property tax. Eventually down the line, 5 years, 10 years down the line, that's going to help out. I can see that. That's fair. However, again, that's like a super specific targeted version of this tax, which is very difficult to sort of like actually plan out what are all the eventualities, all of these different things. It's much easier to just go, we'll just have a wealth tax. I'm also, again, like the wealth tax in terms of like an inheritance tax. Yeah, like, oh, it's great for people that are super rich. Okay, but actually, again, if you think it out, Daniel Priestley does a good version of this, which is like, okay, well, what happens when someone dies and they say, all right, well, the wealth that they have is valued at, $20 million. Okay, we don't have, we don't have $4 million. We don't have $400,000, whatever. For like 2%, 244. Yeah, so we don't have, $40,000, $400,000 in the bank. We don't have $400,000 to pay for this tax, for this person's death tax. We don't have it. So we have to sell off some of their assets. Okay, well, if you're selling off the assets, guess what? You're not getting full price for those assets. And, then, okay, if you've got $20 million worth of stuff, are you taxed for that every year? Like, all of these things have like really terrible consequences, even over and above the fact that it's like, why the hell are you entitled to grab this person's assets just because they made a bunch of money? Why? Yeah, like why are you entitled to it? You haven't explained that to me.
If there was a cut in income tax, they say, or it's tax cuts for millionaires. No. Wealth and income used to be sort of the same thing because you were taxed generously enough and property was inexpensive enough that if you earned a good salary, you did become rich. I think that correlation's been completely broken. I wonder why people buy. If your parents own a bloody 6-bedroom house in Beaconsfield, is it actually worth getting a graduate job? Because what you can earn after tax and rent is almost irrelevant compared to the weird tax-free accumulation of the value of your parents' home. So I'm sorry, I don't think Gary Stevenson shops enough. He's only got one mug. I keep watching his podcast. Gary, buy a second mug, help the economy out a bit, right? But I think we fundamentally have to hear him out because I don't think, I think it's a very, very valuable counter insight into how the economy is now working. Now, this is worse in London. I would argue there are parts of the country where the property market probably just about still serves a purpose. We don't have migration to the same volume in certain parts of the country.
And that is another aspect that does need to be, dealt with, which is the influx of new people via migration, legal and illegal, illegal being probably, more of a problem because you don't have any controls on it, is also inflating the values of all of these properties.
You don't have the stranglehold over building. I mean, one thing you could do, by the way, very simply, is you could completely rip up, because this is very IEA here. The Japanese do planning permission in a completely different way. Land is zoned, and what is defined for each zone, however, is not what you can build there, but what you can't. So they have certain zones of land. I mean, I would argue the Thames Estuary, large swathes of the Thames Estuary inside the M25. There are swathes of land where basically you can build an abattoir, do anything you like, and then increasingly, bit by bit, the restrictions come in. You can't build an airport, you can't build a this, you can't build a that. But within those constraints, you're basically free to do what you want to do. It's a kind of reverse polarity planning permission system. I would love it if, grand designs ceased to exist as a program because the process of building your own home was so easy that it made very bad television. That would be an objective for property policy. Is to, what's the chap called? McLeod, is he?
Sure.
The chap who turns up on Grand Bride.
Yeah.
And someone gets pregnant.
And that is another aspect of this which really should be, addressed, and is probably easier to address than the idea of wealth tax, and has less, second, third order consequences, which are, bad. But we could essentially say, all right, why not just make it easier to build more houses? Why not make it easier to do all that kind of stuff? And apparently it is very difficult to do that. In London and all these other places, very difficult to make property. Very difficult. Not a great thing.
A nice picture of Elon Musk showing that his heart goes out to them. And apparently it goes out to them, but not to the ADL. Because apparently Musk has committed a crime against nature, if you're not aware. It is not the natural order of things for...
Turning Point USA is named as an extremist group. The ADL has kind of fallen off here.
Someone to label the ADL, because naturally the ADL gets to label others. It is the judge.
Yep.
It never gets to be labeled itself, but now we have Elon Musk labeling them as an extremist hate group. And we're going to see if Elon Musk has a couple of points, but before that, it's important to understand why people really dislike the ADL. Because if you have an organization that allegedly is fighting anti-Semitism, then you would assume that everyone that dislikes this organization is, well, obviously that they're an anti-Semite. Like, there can be no other reason. And unfortunately, this is due to the fact...
It's the same thing with BLM, same thing with all these other things where it's like, hey, the Antifa, Anti-Defamation League, the, Stop Hate Against Muslims group, the blah, 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 Save All the Puppies organization. Okay, yeah, just because you're named that doesn't mean that the people that dislike you are automatically for sure against the thing that you say, that your title says you're against. Because you could be an Anti-Defamation League that is purely out there to stop anti-Semitism, and that's it. But also, you could be using that as a cover, and you're trying to censor people for stuff. You're trying to get video games taken out. You're trying to push specific political groups.
That we live in an age where critical thinking is not just discouraged, but it's completely non-existent.
Illegal.
Because if it did exist, then people would ask, it's like, okay, well, they're fighting anti-Semitism, that's a noble goal, but how exactly are they doing it? And more importantly, the question that I've not heard it even once mentioned in any situation, how effective are they at the job? Like, do the policies that they make actually lowers anti-Semitism or raises it? And if you are to actually look at the questions that I asked before, you'll be horrified. The first thing is that the ADL has been almost exclusively allied with the Democrats for the last couple of years, attacking Christian groups, attacking Turning Point USA, attacking right-wingers. Even when they were memeing online, they consider Pepe the Frog to be an anti-Semitic symbol. So they decided to become political, right? Like, if your job is to fight down against anti-Semitism, then being political partisan and attacking the right-wingers, then right-wingers that may not even be anti-Semitic, like they're going to hate your organization simply because they view themselves or their friends constantly targeted by the ADL. And the second thing is being disingenuous, like inflating statistics. Everyone knows the scandal with Steam, a gaming company that apparently was accused by the ADL of fostering hate.
Yeah.
Because some million messages of them were anti-Semitic. Now, when you look at the fact that there's hundreds of billions of people using Steam and sending billions of messages,
oh, that's a lot.
then a million of messages is a drop in the water. But the way the ADL framed
Yeah,
it, you know, it
less
sounds
than
like a high
1%.
number. And when you actually look at what those hate messages were, well, they had Pepe the Frog. Like more than half of them had the emoji Pepe the Frog, which now in 2025 it's an emoji that left-wing, right-wing, many types of groups use it.
Yep.
And the ADL classifies it as a hate symbol, so you kind of understand why they...
Again, I'm sure he's going to mention this, but it's like, all right, let's say that you're an organization. You start an organization to do something. Okay? It's got an issue. It's a really serious issue. You want to deal with it. So you go, all right, we're going to do this stuff. And you start dealing with this issue. And because it's a real issue, you raise money for it. You're like, all right, we got to employ a bunch of people to do with it. You know, we got to deal with this stuff. All right, so you start dealing with it. You're getting paid. It's your job now. You're spending all of your time, 40 hours plus a week on this thing specifically. All right, keep going, keep going, keep going. And you know what? You do a great job. And you fight this issue. And actually, you know what? You're starting to make some room. You're starting to solve this issue. That's great. You're making progress. Okay, now we need to double down. We need to get back in there. We need to make sure we totally solve this issue. Okay, you know what? In a year, actually, it turns out that, like, you know, we actually did a really good job and we basically solved this issue. All of the things that we were initially talking about that were bad, they're not happening anymore. Okay, well, I still like getting paid by this group, and I've got a whole bunch of employees that also... guess what? They want to stay employed too. So they're bringing me stuff where it's like, oh, hey, look at this issue. This is kind of like that issue that we had earlier. It's sort of like that racism that we were trying to fight, or it's sort of like this environmental issue that we were really passionate about. You know, maybe it's not exactly the same as the one we were talking about before. It's a little bit more niche, or it's a little bit less clear. It's a little bit less of a concern for most people. But you know what? It's the same kind of thing. So maybe we can deal with this. Oh, you know what? You're totally right. We can deal with this. And actually, you're wrong. This is actually a very serious issue. It's just because it was so subtle that we missed it. And you just keep going down that route. And you go, okay, is it in your interest to solve this issue? Now, a good analogy to this would be that I think everyone, certainly the left-wing people, well, okay, maybe not nowadays, but it used to be, the left-wing people would totally be on board with this. All right, is it more profitable for a pharmaceutical company to cure cancer or to treat cancer? Like, if you had one treatment, even like a fairly expensive treatment, like, you know, there's a $10,000 pill that cured cancer. Okay, there's a lot of people that are going to develop cancer. $10,000 is a pretty good amount of money for a treatment. Okay, that's a pretty good profitable thing. Okay, or you can sell treatment for cancer. They need, you know, $100, you know, $1,000 worth of pills every month. And they might need those pills for, you know, years. Oh, okay, so in a year, you're making $20,000 extra. You're making, you know, $100,000 off a person. And they're going to be doing for, okay, so you've like just 10, 20, 30, 100 times, 100x'd the profit you've made off this cancer. Which one do you think they're really going to invest in? The cure or the treatment? Which one would they rather have? That's how you got to be looking at these ADLs, BLMs, you know, government bureaucracy, environmental protection agencies, all of these types of things. It benefits them to lower the standards of the issues that they're treating. To say that there's more bad stuff going around, it benefits them. It keeps them in power, keeps their grift going, it keeps them employed. It makes them more money and more power.
do it, right? Like they classify something as a hate symbol, something innocuous, so that when they run their research, they find a lot of things that have the frog, and then they can conclude it's like, oh, well, look how anti-Semitic Steam is. And because of that, Gabe was actually dragged in front of the Senate. It was a big scandal. And a lot of people that don't hate Jewish individuals, but like they love video games and they love Gabe Newell, definitely didn't appreciate when they saw what is happening. But more recently, and this is like one of the things that I already made a video about, they said that anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. They said something like 40%, 50%. And look, like I go on the internet and I do see anti-Semitism, like that's true. But if it was like 40 or 50,
and I think it is probably gone up. I think that's probably fair to say that it has actually gone up. A lot of that would be the sort of the left-wing anti-Israel stuff. I'm sure all of that is classified as anti-Semitism, and there probably is a fair jump on that. I think I feel like I've seen that. Part of it you'd go, okay, it's not really anti-Semitism, it's stuff that's critical of Israel, treatment of like Gaza and Palestine and these things. Some of it is like for real pro-Palestine to the point of being anti-Israel. And then some of it is, anti-Semitic. And some of it's in like a weird liminal space where it's like, I find it to be anti-Semitic, but it's geared specifically towards Israel in such a way that you could like maybe, if you were being really charitable, go, okay, this is maybe just being anti-Israel. And it just so happens that it's, against Jewish people because Israel is a Jewish state. Yeah, you could maybe make that argument. That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of that.
50%, that would be that like 1 in 2 people that you know would be anti-Semitic. Which is beyond ridiculous, right? Like it contradicts the living reality of almost everyone we know. And so how did they get the number? Well, apparently they got the number because they consider anti-Semitic to be anyone that believes Israel is engaging in a genocide right now. Now, look, I personally don't know if Israel is or isn't engaging in a genocide because I'm not in Gaza, right? So like I get my information from the media and the internet. There are various groups that are invested into pushing one narrative or another. And like,
for sure.
Since I'm in Romania, like there's no way for me to fact check it. Like you just have to take one group and have their faith in it. But even if you have an individual that would believe that Israel is engaging in genocide, at the end of the day, like that person would blame the Israeli government. And this is why Benjamin Netanyahu actually is wanted by the International Criminal Court. Like my nation, if Benjamin Netanyahu ever came to Romania, like he would be arrested by the Romanian authorities because he's got an arrest warrant. And like just because someone dislikes Israel, that doesn't mean that they're anti-Semitic. Like, the common definition of anti-Semitism, like if you go and you
that is true, although I will say that has kind of been eroded a bit. The idea of like, okay, yeah, man, I'm just actually critical of Israel. It tends to me to be like, okay, I agree, you definitely do have the, right, and you do have some rational arguments why you'd be critical against Israel, especially if you were in like the U.S. Like, understandable, I get it, but I will also say like the special treatment of Israel versus any other country seems a little weird to me, and I don't really get why it gets a different hearing than any other group. I don't see it, and that to me, like I don't want to default to it's anti-Semitic, but I've not really found another good rationale for why Israel gets singled out for its bad actions to the degree that it does, as opposed to any other country, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Ask people on the street, what does it mean? It would be like a person that hates Jewish people, right?
Mhm.
But like, if you're a Jewish person and you go to that individual and they have nothing against you, they don't dislike you whatsoever, but they do dislike Israel, is that an anti-Semitic person? Well, according to the ADL, it is, but that's not what the common person thinks, right? So like, they're playing these language games. They're tinkering with definitions. They're playing with them in order to obtain what they want. And so what they really want is censorship. And the problem with modern censorship is that if you have someone that has millions of subscribers or millions of followers, like a content creator, and you censored them, well, all those millions of followers are going to hate the living shit out of you. Like, you just took their entertainment. They don't agree with you, right? You didn't convince them or anything. You
Very
just
fair.
position yourself between them and the thing that they want to watch. And sure, you can do this once, you can do it twice, you can do it 3 times, but like, at some point it becomes a pattern, and you risk raising the ire, especially if the people don't agree with you that the individual was anti-Semitic, or that he was so extreme that the only thing that was left was to censor him. Like, nothing else would have worked. And this is where Elon Musk enters, and Elon Musk actually did have beef with the ADL because they also accused Twitter of being hateful, and they attacked his advertisers. And now it's time for Elon Musk to strike back. And apparently, the ADL has now targeted Christian identity. Now, here's the interesting part, right? Christian identity is actually a subsection of Christianity. And it claims that God only created white people in the Garden of Eden, and that Jewish people are descendants from the serpent in Genesis. It has been connected to neo-Nazi groups as well as the...
Okay, so... oh, man. Okay, so Christian identity, in terms of like, okay, there's some group of people that say, hey, this is what Christian identity means, and they use some crazy wild definition that no one uses, and they're going to say, yeah, this is bad. And it's like, okay, we just happen to help you say that the world's getting more anti-Semitic, because anyone who therefore identifies as Christian would go, oh, okay, they are a member of Christian identity, which is a super racist, horrible, anti-Semitic thing. It's like, okay, dude, like, I don't know. You're going way too far.
KKK. I got a question, though, right? How responsible is it for the ADL to do this? Like, first of all, how large is this group? Like, does it have millions of members? Is it operating in the open? No, obviously, right? And my second question is, what do you think happens when the random woke-tard, like the random person on Twitter that has absolutely no brain, goes on the ADL and sees this? Like, are they going to actually think of this particular group, or are they going to apply it to all Christians?
Shot.
And I don't
What do you
think
think?
that the ADL doesn't understand this.
They do.
I have no doubt that they genuinely do get it, but they posted this, and they allowed Elon Musk to, that's not fair. It's like, okay, Christian identity is genuinely a hate group. It doesn't refer to Christians, or like Christian identity as in the actual Christian
the like, identity's capitalized. You didn't see that? God, you must be a bigot.
identity, but it's an organization that's called Christian identity, right? So like, they're separating the organization from other people that identify as Christian. And so if there is such an organization that is actually hateful, like it belongs there, fine. I heard a lot of people making that excuse. But let's look at another controversy, which Elon Musk also pointed out, where the ADL classified Turning Point USA in its extremist glossary, describing it as deeply wrong. Founded by the late Charlie Kirk, the non-profit group has experienced a surge in popularity since Kirk was assassinated. So, let's flip the table a little bit and ask people in the audience, what do you think would happen if the reverse was true?
Okay.
Like, if Turning Point USA or any right-wing organization would have classified the ADL as an extremist hate group,
yeah,
and then someone from the ADL would get assassinated, What do you think would happen to that organization? How do you think people would feel?
What do you
if
think?
that was the case? Like, imagine if Hassan Piker was to call the ADL an extremist group.
Ooh.
And then something would actually happen to the ADL. Like, there would be like some unhinged person goes in there, commits a crime or whatever. What do you think would happen to Hassan? I mean, I find this fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we have this thing called accountability? Do we have standards? Because I felt like stochastic terrorism was a thing.
Yeah, I thought so too. Not recently though. It was like 5-10 years ago, but like the last month, it disappeared.
It's not anymore, is it? Like the word stochastic terrorism has completely disappeared from the lexicon ever since the failed assassination of Donald Trump. All of a sudden, the entire mainstream media just stopped using that term. That's very interesting. But still, I don't think the ADL appreciates being in the spotlight. I don't think they enjoy getting called out by Elon Musk.
No, I don't think so.
One of the call-outs, again, they can have an excuse for it. They can just say, well, Christian identity doesn't actually mean Christians.
Of course not.
You know, they can play coy. They can have the plausible denial.
You just don't know, man. You just didn't know that. How did you not know that?
Des Moines Education Association released a statement Friday. The Iowa State Education Association and Des Moines Education Association released a statement Friday afternoon. We were shocked to hear of Dr. Ian Roberts' detainment by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents early this morning. Since being hired as superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, we have known Dr. Roberts to be a tremendous advocate for students, families, staff, and the community. I don't give it. He has to go back. Get him the f*** out. He's already stolen so fucking much from everyone here.
Probably.
Get him out. His leadership and compassion for all students, regardless of background, identity, or family origin, are a beacon of light in one of the state's most diverse school districts, and there it is.
Yeah.
There's the towing the party fucking line. Why would you need to say this? Why would you ever need to say that? It is a dark and unsettling time in our country. This incident has created tremendous fear for DMPS students, families, and staff. We call on the community to come together and support each other. No, it's been a dark and unsettling time in our country where we've had illegal immigrants here running amok, running free, getting free housing, getting free healthcare, getting paid to go to school, getting their degrees cheaper than Americans, getting jobs that they should have no business having. Get them out. I don't know how anyone defends this garbage.
Very easily.
Regardless of
I
background,
think
his
it was
background is the fucking
5-10
problem.
years.
Yeah, exactly. Internet Zen Master, thank you. What the hell? You have to do a background check for your shipping industry job? How did this guy get so many superintendent jobs? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. It's insane just how many stories we read about people flagrantly breaking the law and getting away with it constantly. No, hiring a fucking illegal immigrant with a weapons charge as a superintendent creates fear for DMPS students. Yeah, true. How does a weapons charge not disqualify you from a school position? I don't fucking know, man.
Well, they
That's
didn't ask for
absurd.
any
I
of
hope
this
the
stuff.
comments on this are people eviscerating them for being dumb fucks.
Good lord.
We stand with Dr. Roberts. Oh, fuck. This is disgusting and heartbreaking, praying for him and his family.
It's Facebook,
I stand
right?
with Dr. Roberts. A lot of speculation. I believe the statement said he's being detained by ICE, so they don't know why, and more information will be shared as they learn.
Oh.
And exactly what did you guys do to help him? I hope this is because he stood in the doorway and tried to protect someone from this BS.
Oh my
Chat,
god.
I want to point something out.
Point it
Everyone
out.
posting in support of this. Ashley K, Gabby Morales, Samantha Marie, Tammy Sorter, Mika Lynn, Eileen Cosgrove, Angela Evans. These are all fucking women!
Yeah.
Maybe it's time we had a serious conversation about repealing the 19th, since women clearly can't understand when bad people do bad thing, there should be repercussions.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm so fucking tired, man. I'm so fucking tired, bro.
Oh, man.
Finally, the Fox lady says it. It's just like...
I think she said it before. And I think she's not the first person to say it.
My right to vote can prevent all of this nonsense? Sure, fuck it, man. Holy shit. Mercenary, thank you.
We've looked
Always
at some
carry
stuff
that level
for
of
that.
cash on hand as the IRS bribe money that they take from you every year.
Oh, man.
Mika Lim, thank you. That's not me. I'm a man.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, your last name is Lim and hers is Lynn with an N.
Ah.
Oh my god. Worry not the Chinese bots, Foxy. They're not real women. Why is performative empathy trumping citizenship? People don't donate to charity on this level of societal grifting. I don't fucking know.
It's crazy.
I do not understand. It is just flabbergasting. Like I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. Kodo the Fox, thank you. Enough about women's.
Yeah. I mean, the performative empathy thing is like, I mean, I guess it's a thing, but I will also say, I think people are kind of just like, they're losing out on this, right? They're like, they are like, they're losing out on this. It's a hole. It's filling a hole. They don't have anything that actually gives their lives meaning. The best they can do is post on Facebook, on social media, get a couple likes, and go, oh, that's my family. That's my thing. You know, let me check my cat. Let me check my, you know, I guess that's got to be what it is. But there is also like legit statistical evidence that goes like, yeah, the 19th Amendment was not a great move for society, you know, or at the very least, it moved it in a different direction than it was going. Maybe the direction we're going in is better in the long term. Maybe it's possible, but right now we're in a rough patch.
Right? It's time to discuss women's wrongs. This is how fucked your city is. These women are fucking everywhere. It's always the white women that grift this hard. God, it's just like, I'm sure they've been taken in by the like, hello, fellow white women. This is our duty. This is what we need to do. And it's like, where are the men to just be like, stop being fucking dumb. Stop being dumb. I'm in control now. You listen to me. Dye your hair back to a normal color, you degenerate. Mr. Peroxim, thank you. This POs can get a job as a superintendent, yet it takes 3 years for your mom to be able to graduate from substitute teacher to full-time. What the fuck? It's all rigged. It's all fucking rigged. You're playing a game that you have no chance of winning because the people in control of the rules don't give a shit about you. They want to protect the people who are criminals instead. The men who try to do that get arrested. Hopefully we can bring common sense back so that stops happening. Treat common sense men like heroes again. Daniel Penny should never have been arrested. Holy fuck. I'm angry. Yeah. IQ appears to affect ability to listen in noisy settings. Whoa there, University of Washington School of Medicine. This is some dangerous radical logic here. I don't know how you could print something so horrendously terroristic. This is stochastic terrorism.
Probably.
In action. Ryan, thank you for the 18-month member.
I think that's fair. That does sound like what are you trying to do? You trying to get people that can't listen? You gonna try to get them killed? What are you doing, man?
Twitter was acquired for, wasn't it like $60-something billion?
You mean by Elon Musk?
I thought it was like 40. I thought it was like 44 billion.
There. Well, we saw this today that
I thought it was 40.
EA has announced that they have.
I mean, I guess there was like different negotiations. I want to say it was 40.
Officially been acquired.
44 billion.
There you go. I was dead right.
Oh, wow. So for
$11
billion more, $55 billion, and they have been bought by more or less the public investment fund of Saudi Arabia. And you can see.
I don't know if that's necessarily going private.
See this right here. If you had stock in EA, public stock, my oh my, you got a good return. 25% premium on your stock price right there. That was already at an all-time high, which was crazy. So, yeah, man. Now their quote. Andrew Wilson, the CEO, who will remain CEO of EA, says, our creative and passionate teams at EA have delivered extraordinary experiences for hundreds of millions of fans, built some of the most iconic IP, and created significant value for our business. This moment is a powerful recognition.
What are EA's games? EA's most popular IPs. 10 best EA games. Yeah, let's see them. FIFA, Need for Speed, The Sims, Battlefield. Mass Effect was, I'm guessing, the only one I could think of. Dragon Age, that's dead. Dead Space, that's probably not doing great. Is that it? 10 best EA games of all time? I mean, the only one I can think of is Mass Effect. That was the only one I could think of. The Sims, okay. Apex Legends, I guess. Star Wars Jedi, I was not a fan of that. Titanfall, that's done. Battlefield, Dragon Age Origins. Yeah, Origins is the best one for sure. Mass Effect. Dead Space? Nah. It was okay. But I mean, that property's kind of like toast at this
Of their
point.
remarkable work. Looking ahead, we will continue to push boundaries of entertainment, sports, and technology, unlocking new
55 billion for that? I mean, I guess it's literally what? It's like Apex Legends is the only thing that they're making that still makes money. Right? Am I crazy? I think that's it.
Together with our partners, we will create transformative experiences to inspire generations to come. I am more energized than ever about the future we are building right here. So,
Shout out Saudi Arabia for just constantly owning everything gaming, slowly,
Right.
surely. Gaming
They're trying
tournaments,
to
everything
for the
else.
future because their oil reserves, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know.
Oh yeah, they're not doing well.
Okay, listen. Now that Saudi Arabia owns EA Games, can we get a Battlefront 3? Huh? Yeah?
well, there's been a lot of talk about this, about what they do with the games moving ahead with all these IPs and everything that's owned. And a lot of people are saying that this could potentially be the end of a lot of the bullshit that you've been seeing in EA games, a lot of the kind of woke stuff over the last few years, because guess what? The
Saudi Arabia don't play that
shit.
Yeah.
And when daddy Saudi government over here comes in and says, hey, we ain't playing that shit, I think there's a good opportunity that this may
Why
be
is such
the
an
end of all.
NPC woman character driving cars?
right. Yeah,
Where's her chaperone?
Do y'all think that may be the case? Could this be the end of the wokeness at EA?
I hope so.
Clean house. Likely. It's sad that now we have to outsource everything so that we can get normal shit.
Well, I mean, this is not new. This is like, okay, hey, how come Marvel Rivals, the designs look like, pre-2016 character models and these types of things? That's because it's made in China. How about this? It was South Korea. How about Japan? What about this? It's Saudi Arabia now. It's like, yeah, that's not great. Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, again, Saudi Arabia, 55 billion for EA. Dude, that's not a good purchase. Like, that's not like, there's no way it was actually worth 55 billion. There's no shot.
But yes, most likely that's what's going to happen.
A quick rundown of some of the games that
I don't know.
IPs that
That's the one thing why I would say I don't know. I think it's entirely possible they're like going to do the same thing as China, which is like, yeah, no, make your shitty games, make them shitty. It's cool. We'll do our thing. We'll make them good. But I mean, it depends on if they need the money. It depends on if Saudi Arabia thinks that they actually need, a return on their investment. And I feel like if they felt like they needed a return on their investment, they would have negotiated better. $55 billion for that, like, yeah, Twitter being bought for $44 billion. Twitter's Twitter. Twitter's like a huge, giant, it's like what, one of the 4 biggest companies in the world. EA is nothing compared to them. And they're paying $11 billion. What? 10% more? 20%. They're paying a 20% markup on Twitter. That's yeah.
they own. Army of Two.
For me, it seems like not a good investment.
Been over a decade since we saw an Army of Two game. Obviously, Battlefield, Bejeweled, the Burnout franchise. Man, the Burnout franchise, that'd be great to return.
Fucking love Burnout. Do you think that cool game when it dropped? Remember that? Seeing that for the first time?
Yes.
Cars just wrecking into everything.
Burnout 3 Revenge was the best. Oh my God, so good. So stinking good. Hey, do you think we would have seen Dragon Age the Veilguard if the Saudi Arabian government was,
I don't think so.
Was a part of that?
Probably not.
Don't think so.
Don't think so. Don't think so.
Just throwing that out there. The Madden franchise, Knockout Kings, Medal of Honor. Let's go. The NASCAR, NBA Street, NBA Live. They also own NBA Jam, I believe, now.
Yeah, it's all. It's got to be all the sports stuff.
Oh, did I pass Mass Effect?
I think they have
Yeah, that's a
FIFA.
biggie.
I think the main reason they did it is for FIFA.
Some of them. Road Rash. Man, the Rock Band franchise, Skate, SSX. You wonder why these companies are sold for $55 billion. You see why they're sold for $55 billion.
I'm still
when
like
it's just Titanfall. You see all these games. Wing Commander. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Even Spore, Skate. We just had a new Skate released. I think this is going to be a drastic.
Yeah, it's the FIFA stuff. They did it for FIFA.
Drastic shift for EA. And I think you're going to see a lot more quote unquote based games, or at least games that are. I think you're going to see a total revolt from a lot of the people who work at EA because they're going to put together some standards and practices that a lot of them do not agree with. You're going to see
and that Saudi prince will wipe his ass with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's going to
Probably
wipe his ass with the rainbow flag and be like, nope, this is how we're doing it here. Which I'm with you, Phoenix. It's sad that we have to outsource.
You're outsourcing your culture essentially, but it needs to get back in shape. So, hey, I'll take that over what we've been getting.
Yeah. Well, we have another quote here from the CEO of EA, who once again will be here. Says, our values and commitment to players and fans around the world remains unchanged. I'm excited to continue as CEO, working alongside our leadership team to advance our strategy. United by our vision, we will deliver experiences that transcend platforms and empower players everywhere to create worlds, characters, and stories that are bold, interactive, and deeply connected here. So, yeah, that's kind of it. It's a big ass deal, giant big ass deal,
big ass deal, baby.
Blabs.
What?
I wasn't here for that. You didn't put Tony Hawk in the game lineup.
To her defense,
I must go.
Some people, excuse me. Some people swear by that Final Fantasy game that she put there, so that would have made them angry.
I.
So,
I 3. No.
Listen, EA.
I think Final Fantasy 3 was actually the first like real Final Fantasy game that actually really resembled Final Fantasy. That's fair.
Saudi Arabia, help a girl out. Battlefront 3. Bring me back now, y'all.
Thanks, Blabs. Way to go. Way to divert.
Just done that. You'd have had a perfect list.
Yeah, but Dino Crisis 2 is there, and then you would have pissed off someone with Dino Crisis. So I thought you did good on this one.
Yeah.
Well, Das Pooch came in as I'm going to bring it back. Says, thank you, Das Pooch, for bringing it back. Says Saudi Arabia is buying up a lot to commercialize quickly, like the PGA alternative. So not surprised, but I'm intrigued to see how not being a publicly traded corp will affect things. Fingers crossed. Yeah, that's probably the biggest takeaway of this is with it being a public company now, they don't have to worry about investors. They've already done it. They don't need to worry about what the social conscious or an ESG score or anything like that. It's all in-house, which for $55 billion, I mean, holy shit, you can do whatever the hell you want with all those properties. Man, that's crazy to think about. All right, speaking of battle,
I mean, like I can see that, but I will also say I don't know if I see Saudi Arabia. I don't know if I mean, if you're trying to invest in these types of things, I don't know if they're going to be going and doing the same thing where it's like, yeah, we want some creative freedom. We want to create these new games and these things. I'm like, just buckle down on the sports stuff. Like my guess, to be perfectly honest, my guess is they did this for FIFA. They did this for FIFA.
Battlefield, keeping it with the EA theme over here. Did you see the new trailer for Battlefield 6 that was released? We talk about the old rivalry days of Sega versus Nintendo. Boys, we're back. Check out this trailer. Yeah, this is great. I'm not going to play the music here, but you'll get the idea
I was going to say.
what's being thrown on here.
Real quick, since you're talking about Sega and Nintendo, I
Mm.
love that Sega Nintendo kart mashup they did.
That was great.
And I'll eat some crow on Sonic. I picked it up. That game is fucking awesome. Way
good.
better than Mario Kart World.
Oh, awesome. That's excellent.
Way better than Mario Kart World.
I don't know what
Excellent.
Sonic game he's
Well,
referring to.
Here is the trailer for Battlefield 6. And tell me they're not poking fun directly at Call of Duty here. As they roll up and look who gets out of the car. Uh-oh, Zac Efron is
Ruh-roh.
here.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Celebrity. We got Jimmy Butler. From
Don't know who that is.
From basketball. We got this guy. I don't even know who he is.
Don't know who
We
that
got
is.
That guy. These are all celebrities.
Oh,
over here.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see what happens here as they get going over here. Have you
Yeah.
seen this yet, Flash?
No.
No, I saw people talking about it though.
Oh, check this out right here. This is they're incorporating
Cool gun,
all
dude.
of these celebrities into Battlefield 6 now. Flash, check it out.
Uh-huh.
Sound check.
Okay, boys, we had to do one thing.
No. There we go.
Which is just
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. I love it. And,
Looks like Borderlandsy.
once again, we talk about the glory days, guys. This is celebrate this shit.
Yeah.
They're directly mocking Call of Duty here. I love this. If we talk about the good old days and the rivalry and such. Nobody's afraid. Everyone wants to bounce around and be friends with each other. Fuck that. Battlefield is directly taking a shot at Call of Duty. Embrace this. Love this. Everything about this is spectacular. It only would have been better if it was Beavis and Butthead walking down. So yeah, this is just absolutely
pretty good.
great stuff. Just wonderful
Keep
shots.
talking about. Did you hear anything about the Battlefield 6 crew mocking Charlie Kirk? People keep bringing that up. Even they're saying in this chat, and I haven't seen any.
I haven't seen it either.
I haven't seen
not
it.
either.
It
Maybe
would not
I'm
shock
missing
me.
something on this. Let me do a
Trying to
quick
think.
glance.
Yeah, please send that to me if that is actually something that happened.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about it.
I'm with you on that.
And
I don't
buy
know.
the game too. That would also be something I would do.
Let's
if that's
see.
true.
We do have this. This is Battlefield 6 forum
Yeah, I
mods on
just
Steam
saw
are
that.
permanently banning users from mentioning a senior developer's mocking comments.
okay,
on
so there was a
Charlie
senior
Kirk's
developer.
Okay, so if there was a okay, this is one of the devs on Blue Sky for Battlefield 6. It's
Maybe.
Charlie's rhetoric led to the violence
not-
that took
Not confirmed.
his life. And this is what
But
he
that just
said.
says somebody said it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
This is what
this
it
him?
is. No, because okay, hang on. I'm looking at something else. It's not from Battlefield 6, so I don't see anything.
This is the dev designer in question, Brian Audette.
Some ideologies are so repugnant they don't deserve debate.
Mhm.
And what Charlie Kirk engaged in was not in good faith. It was inflammatory rhetoric designed to foment the kind of violence that took his life. Spare us your center-right pandering, Governor. God, what a fucking psycho.
What a
Yeah.
retarded statement that was.
Lunatics.
That was
That's
brutally
bad
retarded.
stuff.
That's a guy that's worked on the game.
That's what it
Yeah,
says,
and
senior
then
dev.
there's a retweet from him from 20.
Let me see, actually. I'm going to do my own. Let's see. Is this it? Yep. Yep, that is apparently real. Yep. And then there were some mods who's then banned stuff. Yep.
2024, where the
Sure looks like
statement
it.
is start calling racist people what they are and harming them. Don't record it, just harm them. So the guy calls for violence.
Damn.
All right,
Nice.
you know what? Fuck you, Battlefield 6. Your senior developer to switch me. Congratulations.
If all this
thanks a
is
lot.
true,
Here we go.
that is.
Looks like it. Yeah, no, it looks true.
Well, damn, what a bunch of assholes, huh? Brian J. Audit over
Man,
here.
another sweet game that I don't have
You
to
just ruined
play.
it. You had a good thing going over here.
Yep.
Then you killed Zac Efron. Everyone liked that.
I love Zac Efron. How could you?
You killed Zac Efron over here in your video game commercial, and
Yeah,
then you
no.
fucked it up by being an asshole. Way to go, you dummy. Congratulations.
BioWare. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but his X profile states he's a senior dev. BioWare, not DICE. DICE is the studio that makes BF6. Both DICE and BioWare are part of EA. I think it's unfair to bully call one studio because what it does. I think actually it says he's from the one that I saw from here. I mean, this is the AI.
John Cottingham, welcome to the show.
Wanted Yeah, it was Motive Studios. Senior designer at Motive Studios. That's working on Battlefield 6. So, looks like he did actually. Let me double check. Let me check Motive Studios. This is looking like it is Battlefield 6. It is in collaboration with DICE, Criterion, and Ripple Effects. Mainly worked on multiplayer maps and single player content. Okay, so then this person did work on Battlefield 6. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Congratulations. All right.
Yeah, so this person did work on them.
You played
He's
yourself.
not working, works at BioWare. So the BioWare thing is old. He's working at Motive now and not DICE. Motive is also working on Battlefield 6. So he is a senior dev working on Battlefield 6. Not the main studio, but basically one of the collaborating studios.
And just like that, that's how quickly we'll flip-flop on your ass, you dummies.
Works for me.
You dummies.
Cool. Another game I don't have to play with.
Yeah, I hate you.
Yeah,
Speaking
no
of while we're
problem.
here, remember, Ghost of Yotai comes out soon. Do not buy that game.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent.
Yeah, I just went to Amazon and canceled that bitch.
Attaboy.
Good
Don't
job,
need
EA.
There you go.
Mhm.
God damn it.
Thanks, Sucker
Now,
Punch.
Things you can change.
That's right. Well, now it's the Saudi government here that has to worry about that. What if they just come down and they condemn all those people? Like, can you, like, this guy, let's just say he's a senior developer on Battlefield over here. Let's just say all this is true, Rich.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know, right?
As
Let's just say
far as I can tell from my own research, this is true.
this is true. How do you think he feels today? like knowing that his employment has literally been purchased by the Saudi government. Will he resign?
How does the Saudi government feel about the gays?
They love them.
Good
They're big
question,
fans.
Bless. Or will he continue to take
As long as they go trans.
the blood money?
Dun,
You know?
dun, dun.
Yeah.
I do wonder.
I don't know.
Would he be
you
a
know?
like?
Will he be a giant
entitled?
fucking hypocrite? Let's find out.
What?
Now we
I've got
truly
so many.
find out.
I've got so many backlogged games I'm going through right now. I don't care. I can just
Mm-hmm.
play these and be fine.
Yep.
The newest game I bought recently was that Sonic game, and I also got Pac-Man Repack, which is great. The new one. That's it.
Oh, the new Pac-Man game?
Yeah, it's just a old platformer remade.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I've got like, I'm losing stuff here. All right, so you know what? We will call it for today. I'll say thank you very much for your time and attention. Good luck in all your endeavors. Farewell.